6-pack Lapadat, and I got the bad boy. Man, I can't tell you how many times at Worlds I got stopped and asked about the podcast, talked about the podcast, and then that was at Worlds tons. And then when I went to France, it was kind of shocking. Now there was some people who were obviously like, your man's talking a little bit of shit, huh? There was obviously that. Some people for sure brought up, what is he talking about? We're not jacked. Take a look at this guy. Take a look at that. And I'm like, I know, I know, I know. But because there's obviously all of a sudden everyone's jacked. You're like, oh, okay, I know, I know. But there was some people, surprisingly enough, in France who were totally leaning into it. And one of Pena's like main right hand man, Mathieu, is like super like, man, love the Nick Manders episode. Was all over that Nick Manders episode. In Pena's brother, Alex was like, man, he made some points that were there. Some of them weren't lies. So it was surprising, but it's polarizing. People heard about it. People were definitely aware and wanted to when they were bringing up episodes. They're like, fucking Nick Manders. Oh, tell me about Nick Manders. What's going on? Like, hey man, my man shoots from the hip. I wasn't sure that there'd be that much discussion about it though. I didn't think it was as crazy at the time.
Neither did I. I mean, obviously I have a bias because they're my words, so I don't think I'm crazy. But mainly also because I don't think that like I'm a huge figure in powerlifting by any means. Like I very much think that I'm small fry, right? Like to piss off guys like Pena and Taylor, it's insane. It's like little David pissing off Goliath, but even worse, it's like an ant pissing off Goliath. Like
Lord, you medal at Worlds
I
and
did medal at Worlds, but that's after the fact, right? Like my only big internationals beforehand were a bomb out at NAPFs, if we consider NAPFs like an international comp, which eh. And then Junior Worlds, I didn't even podium. So it's I don't like I'm not a big name by any means in powerlifting, or at least I wasn't. I don't think I'm a big name now, but I definitely feel like I'm on more people's radars, maybe for
after
not the
that
best
podcast
reasons,
play,
but
before the lifting even got underway. But on the flip side, you went on not for nothing. I got to toot my own horn here, but you went on a pretty big platform. So to say these things, so people are going to listen, and it's an international platform. It's not a specific bias towards a certain region. People all over the world, it's more of an international flavor one. So when you show up at Worlds, there's going to be some people, and it was right before Worlds too. So everyone, it wasn't like if it happened, I think maybe 3-4 months ago. And then people saw your Worlds. So many podcasts will have happened since then that'll have had people on, but it was fresh. It was super fresh. It was so fresh that when Taylor Atwood saw you, he was like, "Hey, my man,
yeah, Slim Shady.
Slim Shady.
Is
Chicka,
that the
chicka,
story we're
chicka,
telling?
Slim Shady." Wow. I don't know. So, I mean, but he was all right with it. It sounded like he was all right with it.
I mean, yeah, he seemed okay with it. I think I fucked up again. That one's on me. If we're gonna tell that story, like that is on me. I won't
Let's
lie.
tell the story.
All right. Um. So after the 74s had went down and everything, we all know what happened. Like we don't need to like rehash that. Everyone that knows knows. I'm hanging around the venue with Adam Jansen, and he wants to check his weight on the scales. So things are starting to die down. Callie's doing his interview in the corner, and we walk around back, go into the weight room, and I let Adam do his thing. And then as we exit the weigh-in room, obviously, well, not obviously, but coincidentally, Taylor Atwood and his dad are
Holy
leaving
shit.
the warm-up room. So if anyone doesn't know, the weigh-in room and the warm-up room are just like hallways away from each other. Like it's right there. So I see him and I'm like, I like this is not the time to like say hi. Like he's coming down from probably like the worst loss in his career. I saw him on the podium. I've never seen a man look more angry, so pissed off to be on a podium, which is understandable. I was like, all right, Adam, let's just try to like sneak past. Let's just like get out of here. Let's just go. So we walked past him. And then yeah, just hear those great words in the back. Just, hey Slim Shady. It's like I stopped dead in my tracks. Like
It's in that movie where you know when the camera's facing you, the other characters behind you, the camera's facing you, and then you turn around, you're
I
like,
also
"Hey,
had no
man!"
idea who was going to use those words. I was like, this isn't happening right now. There's no way that Taylor Atwood just went, "Hey, Slim Shady,"
It's
and
like
I
a
turned.
bully in those high school movies where
Yeah,
you're trying to walk by, like, "No, please," and you're like, "Hey,
and I didn't
hey,
know how to
McFly."
act. I didn't know how to act. It was very awkward for me. So I like turned around. I was like, haha. I like ran my hand through my hair, and I was like, "What's up?"
Oh,
And then he was like,
oh
"May the
no!
real Slim Shady please stand up." And I was like, haha. And then we
Oh
talked a little bit.
shit!
Well, we didn't even talk. I think so. The big conversation that I remember is, we're doing like the typical powerlifting back and forth, and then he's like, "How are you feeling for tomorrow? Was it tomorrow? Yeah, no,
It'll be
the
tomorrow. Yeah.
Thursday. No, because there was the general meeting and then tomorrow. So he was
Oh,
like, "How are you
gotcha,
feeling for your
gotcha.
meet on Thursday? Like, how are you feeling?" And now this is when I did like the big major fuck up because I he asked me, "How are you feeling?" And I went, "I'm all right. How are you feeling?" And then I
Hey,
realized immediately what I said. And I just
it's
stared
like,
him dead in the eye with like the worst shit eating grin because I was like,
oh, because
whoops,
you're feeling
whoops.
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
That's the
it
thing.
wasn't like I'm trying to rub it in like you got third. I said you were washed. I was right. It was just like I just said that. I shouldn't have said that. And
I hate. Don't you hate those scenarios where you're like, you feel awkward and like, hey, you know what? We're talking, and then you're like, fuck, I'm making it worse. This is straight out of a goddamn
yeah.
movie or show. Where
And
you're like,
then he was like,
everything I
yeah.
say makes it worse. You're like, why am I so awkward right now? I
Yeah, and then he
can't.
was like, "I'm not feeling great, man." I was like, "Yeah, I get
No,
it." Uh
yeah,
Kind of just like awkwardly like, "You'll come back," and then we left, parted ways, and I never saw him again. And I think he actually left the next day. Like I think he
well,
got on a plane and flew out. I
he
don't
did.
want
He
to say I
bounced
was
out.
one of the last people to talk to him, but it would be really funny for the story if that was the last conversation he had in Malta, and he was just like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here."
Yeah,
I
this,
think that'd be
enough
that'd
of
be
this noise.
great.
It was so. In terms of what happened, let's take a look at his squat for a second and tell me your honest opinion. And everyone knows you gave your opinion on Instagram right afterwards.
Yes,
And
I
everyone
don't
knows what
even
you
need
were
to
saying.
see the lifts again. I've
Okay.
seen them a bunch of times. His third squat was good. In my
Yeah.
opinion, and I think in most people's opinion, I have no idea why he got called on the third squad at all.
It's
Um,
nuts, man.
Insane. Um, so do I think that like to an extent Taylor was robbed? Maybe, but also that's sport, and like we'll get into that conversation if like we talk about my own performance because like I also feel like I got quite jibbed on some things, but you know, um, yeah, his third squat should have passed. His third deadlift, absolutely not. You could see it in his face. I think whenever like deadlifters aren't great at selling when their lockout's soft. I've actually
Mm.
gotten good at it because I'll have some soft lockouts. You need to jut your head forward and bring your chin down. If your head is still trying to force back, it looks like you're still trying to lean back to lock it out. Just bring your chin forward. Taylor's chin never came forward. I mean, I had the side view, so I could tell his shoulders were never like near his hips. Like it never locked in.
Mm.
So the third deadlift controversy to me wasn't a controversy. That's just an issue with where the stream cameras are. And then we can even get into that later because the stream cameras are also what the juries use. So
Yeah.
yeah, if we want to get into like the technical of the whole meet and how calls were made, um, there's not a lot that I can say that hasn't already been said. I feel like at this point, so many people have weighed in that you start to beat a dead horse. But there's like a couple things that I think are a bit insightful that maybe people haven't talked about or haven't heard about, that I'd like to get into maybe later. But yeah, Taylor's third squat should have passed. Taylor's third deadlift, absolutely not.
And so I 100% the squat I saw no issues whatsoever. And I was
Zero.
shocked and rattled they took it from him. The third deadlift, yeah, it was sketchy. It was a sketchy pull. And when I was talking to him about like the calls on him, I was like, look at your third squat, it got taken from me. The third pull, man, that was sketchy. Like, sometimes it would have went your way, I'm sure. But if they don't give it to you, that's not that one you should be able to live with. And then him reviewing it, he was, I think that's probably how he felt. I mean, I'm sure he would have loved to have gotten the third pull. I don't want to talk for him, but Callie's last deadlift, he had room. Like Callie smoked that last deadlift. How much room? I don't know. But if he got that third squat, would Callie have still mitigated that with his third deadlift? I mean, because he would have loaded up more. I don't know. Would they have loaded the same deadlift for Taylor if he had gotten the third squat? Because they don't have to be as aggressive. You never know. But to your point, this is sports, and you could do that with so many people with so many different
Yeah.
classes.
There's so
And
many butterfly effects when you start to take it. Like, what if X happened, then Y would happen, but like X didn't happen. I
yeah,
think like you got to just simplify it, like Occam's razor. What happened is what happened. If you try to look at what could have happened, then other things could have happened. Who knows down the line? Maybe like in an alternate reality where Taylor hit his third squat, maybe he misses a third bench. Who knows? Like we
this
are
is
where
true.
we are. Taylor's third. It is what it is.
Right. And afterwards, when you're watching this, because you posted afterwards, and obviously you said what you said. You so people, I think the big thing was people like, oh my God, he said Taylor's washed. But you did quantify it by saying, I believe you were like, I think only Perk's gonna beat him. But then this happened. Did you think Callie was gonna win? Did you think Taylor was gonna win?
I think I even might have said on our last podcast, I was like, I think Taylor will win, but this is the last year he'll win. When I
Hmm,
was sitting there, I had no idea Taylor was going to lose. When Tim, so like, I actually kind of feel bad for Tim because Tim also beat Taylor. Everyone's bringing up like Callie beat Taylor. Tim also beat Taylor. Tim beat Taylor first. If anything, Callie beat Tim. But yeah, when Tim got his third pull, like it was overruled. Um, that was insane. That was shocking. And then we still had one more pull left. It was never would have ever bet any amount of money that Taylor would have come third. Like
right.
coming second, maybe some madmen would do that, but third,
It's 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 tough because the only thing is like remember in 2022 when Kaiko was pulling for the win and Kaiko missed pulling for the win, ended up in third. That kind of thing can happen when you bypass silver and you're pulling for gold and you're just like you end up where you end up kind of deal. In that scenario, you could kind of envision Taylor going all in for gold, missing his last pull or whatever. But it was tough. Here's the thing. So he's third now. Is this a scenario where that was his chance? Because Callie put on like 25 kilos from Swedish nationals and I think it was March. And Callie's a kid. He's putting on like before that, he put on 25 kilos. He's putting on 20. Now he's not going to keep this pace. I know, but he was pacing like 25 kilos every few months. And by the time we get into next year, next worlds, God knows where Callie's going to be. What are your thoughts on is if they run it back next year in 2024? What's going to happen here? Is this Callie now?
let's take the craziest hot take ever. Because like I guess that's my brand now. I don't even know if Taylor's gonna come back to Worlds.
Oh,
If we look at how the
oh,
world selection team is gonna go, right? Like the US still has to only send 8 people. Like 8 men,
right.
rather. If we have this grand exodus of lifters from the USAPL coming into the IPF, now we have Perkins, we have Bob, we have Ashton, we have Russ. We're probably going to be doubling up on sunglasses, or they are rather. But
Yeah.
even then,
Petrie.
I think yeah, Peacher as well. Perkins will probably beat out Taylor for that spot, and I don't think it would be smart from the U.S. team to bring two 74s. They have stronger 83s. If they're going to double on a class, Delaney and Russ are literally 1 and 2. They should double up
Or
there.
not, or maybe 93's Kaiko Petrie. Like you're like
Or
it's
again,
gonna be
like
crazy.
Bob and Ashton. Like I,
Yeah, Frank.
I'm almost. I don't actually think Taylor's going to make it to Worlds next year.
And you know what? It's crazy to say, first off, because it's Taylor Atwood. I can't even picture. I've been doing commentating the world championship since 2016. I have never ever. Oh no, that's not true. 2021, he wasn't there. Okay. He's just so weird. Taylor Atwood, not at a Worlds.
He's such a poster boy. But I mean, like, even Ray fell at one point, you know? Like, Ray was our poster boy for so long. And then I think, yeah, it was Sweden. He bombed out on squats, didn't he? And then he was just
Right,
never back. Like, it
right.
sucks that, like, these guys don't get to go out with, like, a crazy performance. They got to go out with a whimper. But I mean, that's again, that's sport. People don't really ever want to go out with a grand performance. They always want to look for more. And then,
Mm.
you know, their time comes. But yeah, I do think that the age of Taylor Atwood is over. I don't even mean that anymore in like a let's get crazy. Let's just start saying shit. Like I genuinely do think that like Taylor will go down as one of the greatest of all time, but his
For
time is
sure.
done.
Frig, it's tough to even. I mean, obviously, because next year, where do you peg Cali at? He's 800 plus.
Yes.
I mean,
Um
788 now.
I just imagine second. I don't have like the greatest scouting report on 74s at the moment, but yeah, Perkins, Cali, and then I think Tim is staying 74. But also how much room Tim has to grow in the class. Because like cutting down from 83 to 74, you kind of just like realize your strength potential in the class and then you're done. So, I mean, right now he's third in that roster, but I feel like anyone could swoop in and take that. But yeah, I imagine it's Perkins, Callie, someone else.
Now, okay, first off, it's crazy because of the guys you named. Freaking guys like Russell Orhe, if he goes 93, and it's Kaiko and Petrie, and Gavin Aiden, some of these Russell might not make a world team. Like it's crazy how stacked the US is. Or Petrie might not, or Kaiko, for God's sake, who is the reigning world champion. How long he's been in number 193? Kaiko might not make it back to worlds because it's so stacked. Just because he would have to beat out Gavin, Petrie, Russ all over again. And I mean, he's done amazing things before, and obviously any of these guys can do it and come through. But the fact that like maybe only one of them might go through, that's just the 93s. If Russ goes 93, it's crazy to think about, man. The US is getting way too potent. They got to kick up USVI. Some of these dudes should not have left USVI.
They've been too potent. I was actually thinking if like SBD should become their own nation. So that way we just get more US lifters. Because right now, the way that they have it with like Sheffield and whatnot, PA Nats and Sheffield are too closely aligned timeline wise. And the way like they use Carpino scoring to like slot in who goes to Worlds and everything. Um, the guys in Sheffield kind of get shafted, or vice versa. The guys at Sheffield hit the Carpino, and then PA Nats becomes obsolete. Yeah, it's so competitive just to get a world spot as a US athlete right now that I kind of do feel that just for the just to make worlds still competitive, like as competitive as it should be, we need to weirdly enough give more avenues for US lifters to compete. I know that that's bad for me as a Canadian lifter because
Mm.
these are more scary individuals I have to compete against. But if we want to make worlds not just the US guys dominating everybody else, at least have them fight against each other. Yeah, we need more avenues. So like you said, USVI would work. An SPD nation would be hilarious. I don't think that's going to work, but it'd be really
Well,
funny.
what they can do, here's one thing that I've noticed. The North American Championship, yeah, I mean, you alluded to earlier, but is getting more and more bigger names on it. Like Ray
Is it?
Williams, to your point, is there.
Okay.
Uh, Bryce Lewis, who didn't make the team, but he's won worlds before, is there. I think Gruden might be going there. There's like I'm not sure. There's more. They might start doing other things, and the reason here's why. Because SBD did take people who flourished at Euros or like Carlina, who broke the record at Commonwealths. They're not going to do this a lot. Worlds is still the number one qualifier, and it's the guaranteed, pathway, and you don't want to wait on a wild card. However, there's small opportunities in pockets. So if you're from a crazy heated nation like US, you might start being like, let me go to an international meet. If it's an Arnold Classic in Europe, or if it's an NAPF, let me just like, if you got a chance to come close to the world record or whatever and throw down a statement, and you're probably going to have to be a big name guy, but that might be your pathway. So maybe you miss worlds, but you still get the Sheffield. There's other avenues. Hopefully, the only way to do this is if we put more meaning and emphasis on those other meets. And the only way that those other meets will have more meaning and emphasis, that's where an SBD could be like, we kind of know how we could throw more weight on an NAPF.
Yeah.
If we really want Ray, maybe, if we really want whoever, insert the big name that we mentioned. There's ways. There's ways.
If Canada picked up their pace a little bit and like pulled their own weight more, I feel like NAPFs should theoretically be like the same importance as Euros, right? Because Euros is a big meet, like
Oh yeah.
you say that like someone is like the European champion, that means something. If you say that you're the NAPF champion, no one cares. Like it's
Yeah.
the truth because no one shows up to those meets. But you're right. If we started having more countries or more competitive, you know, battles in NAPFs, then yeah, it starts to mean something. And then we have these like step up meets. But as is right now, North Americans, Canadians, and US alike, there's very little like prestigious meets to look forward to. There's Worlds, obviously, Sheffield if you can make it.
Mm.
For Americans, your national championship. That's it, right? Am I missing any? I mean, World Games once that comes around, but
Again, that's through worlds. You're right. And here's the thing with North Americans. So Europeans, the reason why Europeans works is because there's like so many countries in Europe, so they can have so many good lifters there. Whereas you have the same bottleneck effect for North Americans where a US can only send one team, double up in one weight class. So one weight class will be stacked with two Americans, and you need the Canadian counterparts to be there.
yeah,
You need a good Canadian who's going to rock and roll to be there. Like, and it'll be tough. It depends. Like, like in the 83s, we had like Canada's really strong in the 83s. We always have. The number 2, 3, 4 all-time performances was from the 83 Nationals, right? So if Kafui goes down to North Americans and does like 800 kilos or something like that, and the American goes down there and does somewhere around 800 kilos. Well, we got ourselves a nice battle. Good, good. We have two 283s going around there, 790 to 800 kilos. Good, that's a good battle. But that's one class. We
exactly.
need like we don't have the depth in Canada, I don't think, to do this.
We do.
That's the tough point. And there's only two nations. Like there's more nations in North Americans, I get it, but two powerlifting nations. We really need the other Caribbean nations to step up, which is a big ask. That's not Europe.
Yeah,
Or we have the Pan American Championship, which includes all of the southern like South America, which like Brazil here and there had pockets, but again, it's pockets. It's just the depth isn't here on this side of the world beyond US. I think US nationals, the importance will rise, but SBD is going to be hard set to be like, we're going to throw credit on the US nationals to make it the Sheffield because it's a national level and other nations will be like, that's not fair. And, so it's tough. It's tough. I think there'll be far more credit on winning powerlifting American nationals once all these people come over for sure because
yeah.
you're in a dogfight.
I think
I
they
don't
should
know,
just
man.
start
It's a tough
letting
one.
Canadians and US lifters just compete at Euros.
Well, as guest lifters, you can't. That's happened. I think Ray
Yeah, but it
Williams
doesn't
even did.
count because you're a guest
I know.
lifter. Doesn't mean shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, yeah, I don't know. Or they do
Um,
something. Or an invitational of some sort, an invitational qualifier of some sort somewhere. And they work with it can be sanctioned by the NAPF or whatever the hell, but it's not the NAPF championship. So you could have more than one. Though as we progress over the years, things are definitely going to develop. But we do have a freaking bottleneck issue, man, because
yes,
geographically speaking, North America's massive. Population speaking, not big as Europe, but US plus Canada, Mexico, whatever, there's a lot of population. But that's only three nations I just named, as opposed to because every
Europe.
nation,
Yeah,
right? Because every nation's allowed a team. Europe's got so many teams, it's stacked. So many lifters from everywhere. But yeah, I don't know. So having said that, what did you think about? And this is probably a little up your alley. When Perk said his comment after Cali won, and immediately after Cali won was 788. I could probably hit that on my seconds. Cali didn't like it. Cali was on the podcast. He's like, the man's talking. And by the time you meet me, it's not going to be 788, first off, because his progress is crazy. But Cali's like, that's offside. He didn't like it.
Yeah, I love the statement. I mean, it's great. I love anything that's controversial enough that people start like saying, no, that's wrong, because that's what you need. You need to start that conversation, that argument. In terms of the actual validity of the statement, a world 788 is different than a local 788, right? I don't know what amount of kilos you would need to like damper it to the same effect. I do think that Austin Perkins is still stronger than 788 even at Worlds, but it's not like you could do it on your seconds. That's hyperbole. It's hilarious. It's fun. It's just not as easy as it is at like a random USAPL meet. Worlds is just different. And that's not just to like toot everyone else's horn and my own horn now that I'm a world's level athlete or whatever. Like, no, it's so much harder. You wouldn't get it. It just genuinely is. You can look at the performances of people that competed before and even after now, and then see how they competed at Worlds and just recognize that, like, yeah, people's totals go down. You can only compare world totals to world totals. You can't compare it outside of that because there's just too many factors that come into play that you can't really account for without just, doing it. So, I mean, yeah, 788 to Austin Perkins. It's not that great. But he's probably good for like 800 at a Worlds meet, but not seconds. Great
And
statement though.
well, I mean, here's what I've said. Perk's doing what he's supposed to do. As an athlete, I never fault an athlete for being, if you're braggadocious, do your thing. I mean, Perk's strong as fuck. If he might be the number one guy in the world. You got to prove that, like on in straight up head to head. But he's a phenomenal athlete. He might end up totaling something higher than Taylor ever totaled in his prime. And Taylor, totaled some crazy shit in his prime. Maybe at USAPL Nats. We're gonna find out soon enough. But you're right that like it will be different at Worlds. And by the time he comes to Worlds, Cali's not going to be 788. Perk isn't going to be what he's doing right now either. But does it go up? Does it go down? Does it stay the same? Will it matter? I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be interesting.
You need to do it. Like maybe this is like just coming from me because I sort of had this like mental switch coming from like junior to open, but it's not so much the numbers anymore, it's the title. Before I was like chasing a specific like total every time, and now it's just I just want to win specific meets. So I think that a lot of the USAPL guys are still very caught up in like hitting this number and this number and this number. Um, and I think that's just because their titles aren't as prestigious. Just like on the name alone, like USAPL national champion still will never sound as good as world champion, flat out. So they still compare numbers as opposed to just head-to-head battles. But you like we sort of said, you need to have those head-to-head battles. Like Austin can't state that he could beat the world champion until he does it, in my opinion. Or he can state it because it's fun, but he can't mean it. You know?
Proof is in
I
the
hate to
pudding.
bring up Jurgens. I hate to bring up Jurgens, but it's on my
Do
mind.
it.
Um,
Okay.
I don't mean any offense about this to him, but if we just look at even Jurgens, right? He hit 820.5 before Worlds. Bear in mind the winning total was 815, right? He hit 820.5, and it was all pocket work. Everyone was like, yeah, Jurgens is going to hit something crazy at Worlds. Worlds comes along, and he comes sixth place. Then after Worlds, like what, 2 weeks later at the Silent Worker meet in France, 812.5. And again, he had some room in the tank. So if anyone's just comparing purely numbers without the circumstance of the meet itself, why didn't Jurgens podium? Like there's a factor there, just let's call it the world's factor that influences your total. And until you run yourself through that, you just can't compare the numbers.
It's like people like Natalie Richards, for instance, skew it for people who think, well, look what Natalie did. That would be an outlier. That would not be a case where I would bank on that being the case. Pretending people are talking like, yeah, see, there's talk about time zones and whatever, but it's not as big a deal if you take care of this, that, and the other. Trust me, as someone who's faced multiple travel and time zones on a regular basis and the whole nine, it's real. This isn't fake. When people make up the term jet lag, that's not just hocus pocus. That's not an old wives' tale. And time zones are real. When you land and all of a sudden you find out, like, no, okay, you land and you think it's 6 p.m. No, it's midnight. No, it's actually midnight now. Now you have to go to bed. No, but it's 6 p.m. for me. No, it's midnight. You have to go to bed because you have to wake up in 6 hours. Well, in 6 hours, it's actually going to be midnight for me, and that's when I'm going to want to go to sleep. Well, I don't know what to tell you because it's 6 a.m. That's like actually weigh-in time. And it's like, this is real. You can't tell me this isn't real. You can't tell me this isn't. I don't understand how people pretend these aren't factors. No, these are factors. Trust me. And when you fly back home and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm tired of shit. It's only 8 p.m. No, but this day is going to be 6 hours longer. So this 8 p.m. is actually your day is literally going to be 6 hours longer today. So just be used to that. These are all real factors. Oh, by the way, it is real if you're water loading and you go 30,000 feet in the air. Yes, there's consequences to these things. Yes, there is. You can't say there isn't. And then when you're looking at IPF calls and saying there's a very active jury, etc., yes, there is a factor with like this calls are super stiff. So when people try to mitigate these things, usually they're mitigating it for a certain reason. It's like, yes, no, this is real. This is real. And when you show up and it feels different, you've done junior worlds, you've done Canadian Nats, you've done whatever. When you go to open worlds, it is not going to be the same when you're around when the crowd's there and everyone's battling and people are going to try to make it to Sheffield and like legacies are on the line. And it's like, holy fuck, it's like Taylor Atwood's there or Jesus Oliveras is there. Like you can't be, it is going to feel different. It's going to feel different, Euro Sports Live and the whole nine doing these things. I don't know, man. It's difficult to tell people until they finally experience it. And every now and then, a Natalie Richards skews it, and everyone's like, "See, no biggie. What was the big deal? Look what she did. It happens all the time." No, it doesn't. No, it
It
doesn't. She's
happens.
an
She was
outlier.
one person out of like a what 400 something person meet.
That's
Like
bad
the odds
stats.
are not in that favor.
Yeah. She's just, you take a freak human, she's probably good. Yes, a freak human could maybe run through it. Also, she did amazing, and Team France fumbles the ball at a couple inopportune times there, which was
They're
great.
falling off. I called it. I didn't call it.
Like,
Team France had
yes,
a great meet. Team France did
but
great across the board.
but yeah, no, Team France definitely did their damn thing, but yeah, it was it's tough, man. There's a couple of tough calls that happen there. Everybody makes mistakes. So I don't want to beat up Team France's coaching staff over this. Everybody makes mistakes. That was the toughest of ones. If they made that mistake with somebody who was in the B group, whatever. It is what it is. It's just like, with all due respect to the B group,
Yeah,
whatever. You'd be like,
fuck the
it is what
bigger.
it is. But if you I've been in the B group, so I'm allowed to say that. But at Worlds. But when you do it in the gold medals on the line, I think there was conversation anyways that maybe it was conveyed to her before that poll that they did made a mistake as well. That's going to mess with the lifter as well. I was saying previously, thank God she didn't hit that lift. But then I've heard conversations since that maybe it was actually conveyed to her before she went for the lift that there's been a mistake. And that she might, and whether or not that meant she was, no, if she hit the lift or not, she was in second, or what that meant, and then you scurry out there, that is going to impact. Some people just straight up break down right there, who would be like, "What are you telling me? Like this is."
Yeah, I
Some
would have
people would
started
not.
screaming. Yeah.
It would have been so. If she found out before that, like, we're not back to the old, well, she missed it anyway, so it doesn't matter. No, but then she could be like, no, I missed it because it's bad. It was a bad scenario. It was tough. That's a very difficult, and that takes nothing. Look at Natalie's a freaking monster. She wins. That's not what I'm trying to do here. That's nothing to do with that. It's just more, it's tough. It's the toughest. That was a very tough scenario.
Yeah, I really hope she would have hit it just because it would have been funny. Like, I remember sitting there being like, I don't know, how funny would it have been? Because okay, I assumed that like she didn't know, as I think most people did. This is new information to me. Um, but yeah, the saddest in me was just like, I want to see her hit this and just start cheering like crazy, and then see that like position hasn't
It
changed.
would be
Like the
so
awkward
uncomfortable.
walk back to her coach and like, yay, we won, and the coach is just sitting there like,
Oh
yeah,
man,
that was my bad. Uh,
this is
so yeah, I was
not a conversation.
kind of happy for her that she didn't hit it. I was like, that's good. That's a
Oh,
much better feeling because missing
honestly,
it hurts way less than hitting it, and it doesn't matter.
as long as she missed it without like knowing beforehand. But if she missed it before, either way, look at she's young. I think she might even still be a junior. Hopefully they run it back. And
They make the same mistake twice.
oh my god. Can you imagine they go, she's gonna be rather upset when she comes back, but I think we forgot to change the final pull again. But oh Jesus. If you're the French coach, you just leave. You just leave the building, be like, I'm done, I
Yeah,
resign, that's
you
it. You
start a
know,
whole nother French riot just over that.
you just that's that. We're not
You
doing
put
that.
yourself in the guillotine.
Oh my god. You got all these French. Look at you bring up the French Revolution and everything. You did your research for this podcast.
I had
Yeah,
to.
that's the worst case scenario of all time if it happened twice. But yeah, man, that's one of the toughest. That's got to be one of the toughest, calls I've seen. And I don't know. I hope she didn't know, missed it anyways. I don't know for sure she did know, but there's been talk of this. But I've never heard from her. Hopefully she didn't. She didn't. And there's an opportunity. Who knows? Maybe they run it back at Sheffield. You think they should run it back at Sheffield? What do you think?
There are so many different like storylines of like running it back at Sheffield that like I don't even want to call it. I have no idea. Like there's only so many wild card spots. There's only so
Mm.
many things we could do. Nah, I feel like there are more like there are just better storylines, I think, for Sheffield. Um I think my big one is like I don't know if they'll bring Taylor back. I think they
Ooh.
should, but
Yeah.
also that's so many 74s. Because Tim is going, right?
Yeah.
Like he's guaranteed a spot because of Oceania. So they'll probably actually bring back Taylor because I just remembered about the you know.
Who knows, man? Who knows about
They'll probably bring back Taylor actually.
you never like there's only so many spots. Here's what I'll say about the Jad thing. She did get an invite to Sheffield last time, Battle of the 57s, and won the Battle of the 57s and made it on the podium. So in terms of and with discussion on this, how heartbreaking it is. I know it's not SBD's job to make things right, but like that's super tough, man. I DM'd Jad and was like, you good? Like, is everything all good? Because you can't help but be like, fuck. It would be there'll be enough people. There's enough discussion on it anyways. Controversy is good to sell rematches. And again, Natalie's an absolute monster. She had room, by the way. Natalie had room. So again, to your point about like run, like, well, if you change this for Jad, what if she would have hit it? Then Natalie could be like, excuse me, pardon me, if we're redoing attempts and she gets to redo her attempt, let me redo my third squat. Let me redo my third dead, my third bench because she had room as well. And that's only fair. So Natalie won fair and square. I just want to say that. No matter how the thing with Jad went, to your point earlier about redoing attempts, Natalie be like, hey, okay, let's play that game then. But just in the interest of storylines and selling it, I think you could. You could do a Jad and bring her back because she showed up. And but also you do make a good point on the women's side. I think maybe one of the most interesting showdowns and one that's got to happen. I was so shocked as shit. Corolla Gara in the 63s broke Leah Bavla's 63 kilo world record. And this is Leah Bavla. I thought like Leah Bavla in the 63s, everyone's like, nobody's. touching Leah, and she took the title, broke her world record, and Leah Bavois is a 69, didn't come out for her last lift. And if they end up in the same weight class, oh Nelly, man, we got ourselves. They're 1-1.
Uh, didn't Leah also weigh in super light,
She
like
can
three
make
kilos light?
63. She can make
Yeah,
63 easy.
yeah. Although that might have been, I heard that that could have just been like trauma from missing weight. Uh,
Well, here's the
back
thing.
when.
The Sheffield scoring system is set up on obviously like world records. The 69 kilo world record is lower than the 63 kilo world record. So both of those
Just
ladies,
go to 69, yeah.
100, take out, like, don't cut weight, you know, don't do it. It's just an annoying piece of the game, anyways.
Yeah.
It's cutting weight, whatnot. Who wants to cut if you don't have to? And it makes it easier to podium, and both of them end up in the same weight class. I had Carola Gara on the podcast. I dropped it and I put her on the spot and said, what do you think? She's like, I'm not going to make an announcement yet if I'm going 63 or 69 for Sheffield. But when I played the name game with her and I said Leah Bavois, she said the one to beat.
Well, there you have it. 69
Ooh,
Sheffield, head to head.
that's it. Let's freaking go. Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. And in terms of what did you think about your 83 kilo session? I got, in terms of your freaking the head on your bench and the whole nine. Holy shit, dude. What is going on here? I got the
Yeah,
video queued up, but I don't know if you want to watch this thing.
I've watched that so many fucking
You want
times.
to? Yeah. Okay.
Uh,
So what
yeah,
was your experience like? Let's talk about your experience in general. We don't have to start there either. Let's talk about your overall world's experience. Or do you want to start there and we could double back?
my world's experience was it was fun. It was definitely fun. I guess yeah, my first open worlds. It was weird because this is gonna sound maybe a bit like conceited, a bit up my own ass, but I'm used to almost going to meets and people know me in a way. Or in at nationals, I'm like one of, if not like the best Canadian lifters, right? At Junior Worlds, even, I was like one of the guys in like the 83 class everyone was talking about. I was like a big name. You go to Open Worlds, and it went from being like I've been to so many meets where I feel like I'm a big name to now like I'm just like a little tiny dude. So that was almost kind of refreshing. I kind of liked it. It was humbling in a
Really?
way. I very much enjoyed it. I actually don't really like going around a meet and feeling like people's like eyes are on me all the time. I like just kind of like melding in. So I enjoyed that. It was also nice to like bump into a bunch of people that I've either like talked to online or, you know, for lack of a better term, like powerlifting celebrities and whatnot. It is cool to see them in person and then see that they are like human beings. It makes being a hater a little more difficult. If I'm gonna build a brand on being a villain and an asshole, it's a little harder when everyone is so nice and so genuine. But I'm gonna make it work anyways. Don't worry. But yeah, Worlds was great. Everyone in '83 was really nice. It was almost ironic because I think the two biggest dicks in the class were me and Adam, and we're both Canadian, so we were really fighting stereotypes over there. I do remember being in the training room with him before he competed, and he was sitting in the corner being extremely antisocial. I was like, God, we do not play well with others in '83, but
You guys are competitive. You're used to
we're
being
very
competitive.
competitive. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we are very competitive people. It's what drives us to like to compete against each other to get to the level that we're at. But uh yeah, Worlds was great. If we're going to talk about the competition, which we should, obviously, it was very frustrating. I think if I'm going to use one word for that competition, like for my session, 83, that I'll use for myself, and I think I can use it actually for everybody else, other than Ina. Maybe even Ina. It was very frustrating. I think everyone left that session very frustrated. Like when it ended, everyone just kind of went around, had each other on the back, shook your hands, good game. No one seemed happy. Everyone was pissed off. I was pissed off. Delaney was like happy that he won, but like 815 is not a great total for him. Ina's mad he didn't pull for the win, obviously. Although he had the best meet out of all of us. And everyone else was just pissed. Just pissed off at themselves. Um, it's hard to not look at that session, and maybe it comes from like a personal bias of being in it. So like I'm a little harder on myself than other people are going to be because I think that's how you grow as a person, as an athlete. But I definitely feel like we might have been one of the most disappointing sessions in terms of like performances of Worlds. It was an interesting session for sure. It was fun to watch, but I think only due to how perhaps disappointing each performance was that it turned into like a real scrap near the end. Instead of it
Mm.
being like everyone expected like a big battle between top two and then like three and downwards being a bit of a fight, it just turned into like everyone is shitting the bed. Let's see who collects what. So yeah,
It's
frustrating.
kind of you know what? That was very well said, but it's kind of true, but it was entertaining where as long as everybody's missing, it,
Then it's fun.
it is like who's gonna I don't know what's gonna happen here. Like, first off, let's unpack this a little bit because there's a lot to talk about. Um, but during the day, I know you've seen it afterwards, but during the day, are you paying attention to other people? Like their lifts
During
and what's happening?
oh, like while lifting, like while
Yeah,
competing? Yes,
yeah. Oh,
absolutely.
okay. See, everybody asks, no, no, but you're like you are
I
paying attention.
I need to be in the discussion with the coaches. I need to feel like what I'm doing is worth it. Um,
Mm.
and actually, ironically enough, near the end of the competition, I wasn't doing that because I thought I had just lost, just straight up. I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm like ninth, and I'm like, I thought my third poll was for like sixth. So
What?
I was like, why? I went out very frustrated, and I kind of left like despaired because I was like, what was that even for? And they're like, you're third. I was like, for how long? And they're like, only Ina's pulling, so like you're third, like you've got it. And I was like, oh shit, really?
Yeah.
Like perked up just slightly, but I was still like, yeah. But I need to be in the discussion for what's going on. I ask like what people have hit, what people's openers are, what's going on. Um, like I was the first squatter in the flight, which that hurt the ego because I've never opened for anything. And
Well,
that actually set the
this
tone. That set the tone for the meet because I asked Graham, my handler, I was like,
you're like,
am I
what
first
the
one out?
fuck?
And he's like, yeah, you're first one out. And I was like,
You're
sucks,
like,
man. Like this sucks.
you're like,
I've never
yeah,
done this in my life.
you're like, I'm the fucking big dog back home. What do you mean I'm first?
Yeah.
you're,
I've never,
that's
even as like a 16-year-old competing with opens, I was not first out. So to be first out, I was like, how
you're
by
like,
how
all
much
right.
too? And they're like, by like a good amount. I was like, God,
Yeah, like
this
yeah,
sucks, dude.
they're like healthy enough. We couldn't bump it. We were healthy enough. Well, let's just do
Yeah.
this. Get
And
on the
then
board.
yeah, I got front row seats to seeing Jurens miss his second squat like on strength, and I was like, oh fuck, because like it goes him and then me in order. Um, but yeah, I very much pay attention to what people are doing. I warmed up behind Ina. He looked the other way than I did, so I was deadlifting while just like staring at his ass, and I was like, my warm ups are faster than yours. I was like,
Really?
my 310's faster than your 310. Like I'm pulling way faster than you are right now, but that's not where the cards landed. Although I
Well,
I
it came
I
close.
I think I had a stronger deadlift than Ina on the day. I think if it just came down to like, you don't have three attempts, you just have as many as you want.
Yeah.
I think I could have outpulled Ina. I genuinely think I had the stronger pull on the day.
When I put up the poll, based off of people in the poll and the KOTL stories, they think so. They think you will pull them next year. Now we got to see because every day's a new day. You got a full year to improve. Um, and then Aharo's top end, God knows, he's a little hit and miss with that, huh?
I mean, yeah, that's one thing. He basically rolls the dice every time he pulls above 350. Like
Right.
it'll either fly or it won't move at all. Um, but I think that's also like a nice advantage I have is that as long as I'm healthy, my pull's pretty consistent. Barring the opener, which we could talk about. I would like to actually analyze my meat and break it down. Because I need a platform to do that, and I don't want to do it on
Let,
IG because people hate it
let's
on
do
IG.
this.
People hate it when you analyze your own meat. for some reason. I don't know if you've noticed that. They get
Really?
very angry and they're like, oh, just say you weren't strong enough. Like that whole joke about like meat didn't go as planned. But
Yeah.
if you want to grow as a competitor, you need to analyze what happened. And that comes down as like excuses because yeah, you need to figure out what happened on the lift so you fix it next time. Like it's not
Right.
always strength. It's largely strength, but execution means excuses as well.
Right. Well,
So
let's pull. So I actually have your final deadlift pulled up already. I got your bench that they were not giving you the start commando on pulled up in
bullshit.
terms of that.
I'm
I got
still
that.
mad about that. It's been 3 weeks or whatever. I'm still
I
mad.
got I got those. I mean, frick, man. I got those queued up. We definitely want to look at your last deadlift. But your one deadlift, let me pull up the I have the results as well. So you go three for wait, where are we here? Yeah. Okay, so you go three for three in the squats and you end off with 265. Inaharo ends off with 280, and it looks like he's pacing well. Delaney Wallace, 302.5, and behind you, Yanis, he misses 280. Now, let's talk about your squats. And then I'm going to ask you about Delaney's squats and your theory on that. Because I haven't dropped this podcast yet, but he has a theory on his. But how did you feel your squat event went? Three for three, and that's pretty good for you, especially on the international level.
I'm happy I made the attempts. Not happy with what the attempts were.
Right.
Um, Now this one is going to sound like the craziest excuse out of all of them, but I do actually have the fix. And I'm going to implement this next time, next meet, Worlds, whatever. Um, this is going to sound insane, but please hear me out. The bathrooms were too far from the warm-up room, and the flight was very short. So like 8 lifters with the Turkish loading team, who, by the way, I adore. They're so fast. They're so clean. On average, you have like a 7-minute turnaround. The washrooms in the venue were like a 3 to like, let's say like a 3-minute walk to get there.
They were
So
far.
you walk out the stage, you go there, and then you go piss. And if you pace it really well, you can just walk back and basically walk onto the platform if you time it. I got panicked and I basically like jogged from the washroom onto the platform, and I had like the new SBD sleeves on, they're tight. My hydration was good enough, but not good enough to like account for running right before squatting. So my calves cramped up really bad and I misgrooved the shit out of my second because I had to pee
Oh,
before it. And I was like, oh, this is annoying.
I was commentating and saw you jogging to the washroom, by the way, at one of the points. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
what is my man's doing? You were in it. You're right. Because there's a washroom closer. Wada took it
Yes, I
and
was going to
Wada
complain
set
about
up
that.
camp there.
I don't know why Wada took that one because I thought, because I got tested by the way, I thought it was going to be like a small little like single unit bathroom. That's a full washroom with like walls and walls of stalls and urinals. Why did they take that one? That's like 30 seconds away from the warm up room.
It was right there. I
I
think in
don't.
the future, that is one note that I would give is because I'm sure they're thinking, whatever, let's describe a washroom, but I think in the future they should give the closest washroom to the athletes that
Yeah,
are all there.
it's not as big of an issue for like the B sessions because you have so much turnaround, but for A sessions, yeah, it's you have 0 seconds to spare almost. So that's what happened on my second squat. And then as a Canadian lifter, you're both trying to convince the referees and the judges that the lift is good, but also the Team Canada coaches that you can go up more because they are very conservative. They want to build a total. So that squat, I kind of knew right away. I was like, you guys are not going to give me more than 265. I was like, I think I'm
Two
good
and a
for
half
more.
kilos?
I was like,
That's a short.
I wish they gave me 267, but off of how it moved and off of my competition history, I was like, I can't even convince these guys. So it is what it is. I'm happy I came back for it. I mean, 265 was fine. I think I was good for like 267, 270 on the day, but again, it's sport, it is what it is. The fix for that I'm going to do next time is I'm literally going to, before the meet, walk on the stage, walk to the nearest bathroom, and walk back and time it. Or,
Hmm.
and if it's like over 7, 8 minutes or however long a flight duration is, I'm going to bring a bottle. I'm going to piss in it. That's never happening again.
For real?
Yeah, I'm gonna go in a corner, I'm gonna piss in a bottle because I can't
Fuck
be
it.
jogging onto a platform. It killed me.
Fuck it. Just like, I'm sorry, ladies. Tell the coaches, here's a towel. Just like the UFC fighters weighing in and they got to make weight sometimes and they get literally got to strip down.
Yeah,
You give the coaches the towels and be like, oh, we're doing this right here.
yeah, because
Gather around me, fellas.
but
You get,
anyways, yeah, that was my squat excuse. Easy fix, but annoyed that it happened. But
and
that's squats.
to the 2.5 kilo jump from second to third, your goal anyways was to get bronze and the Canadian coaches got you there. So they're probably like, look at woof, that was iffy. I know it's only 2.5 kilos, but it's 2.5 kilos less you're gonna have to deadlift
Oh yeah,
at the very end. And on
it
the
was a
top
good
end
call.
deadlifts, yeah, it is what it is. What about so before we move on to bench, what did you think about Delaney Wallace's squat? I got this queued up. Delaney said, do you want to watch this? Because this is his dancing before and afterwards and the whole nine. Are you going to get
Yeah,
upset if you
is
see
what
this?
he's gonna say is that they didn't like his dancing, so they overturned it.
Yeah.
Is that his theory? Um, I don't think it's that. I mean, Delaney has always had like a very like borderline squat. Not borderline. It's shifty, right? He has a very uneven squat. So one side looks a lot higher than the other, right? Um, so that gives a lot of precedence for like 2-to-1s. It was the center judge though that gave him a red, right?
I think, yes, I
Yeah.
think so.
And she's probably trying to look at both hips, and especially from the center, he looks very like off kilter. And then, yeah, the jury was just being aggressive all worlds. And their only angle is the stream angle. And yeah, on a stream, he looks a little off kilter. And they're being overly strict. So I don't think it was a thing of like, oh, they don't like his dancing. I think it was just being overly subjective and overly strict with the depth ruling. And depth is unfortunately a rule that is like, it's subjective. I
Mm.
understand that like the rules say like hip crease below knee, but I think anyone that has watched or been in the sport for more than like 2 international meets knows that isn't true. Depth is subjective. It's what the judges say is depth on the day.
Dude, I talk to people in, particularly if it's the untested. And my God, I see some people in training and they're like, why aren't you posting this? And I'm like, if I post this, do you understand what the comments are going to be? They have no idea that this is high. And I see the untested, like, it's not through and through. There are people who sink their squats in the untested, obviously, but there's some federations that just terms of depth being, completely just subjective. Oh my gosh, man. Now IPF Worlds is the strictest of strict, and then on the spectrum, there are people who have like no idea, and they're like, I never get repost. Dog, you don't want me to repost it.
Yeah.
You know, trust me. I'm not helping you if I do that. But to your point, but I will say, I thought Delaney Wallace's, I thought his squat was good. I didn't think it should have been overturned, and I don't know about the whole dancing and the whole night. On the podcast, I haven't dropped his episode yet. He definitely says he got mentioned that some people like, man, it does not look like they're very happy with the dancing. Maybe tone it down a little bit. But does that one does not affect the other? Yes, both can be true. One, yes, they might be like that's. I think that's annoying. As the ref, they might be like, oh my god, here we go. And still, they might think that your squat wasn't to standards. So they both might be true. So when he heard that or seen judges react to him or whatever, that might not be a lie. But also, the judge might have been acting ethically correct by saying, true, yeah, I thought that was annoying. I'm a human. That's not for me, but I'll still judge you fair. And I didn't like your squat. Now, I happen to be of the mind that the squat should have passed, but I'm not convinced they took it away from him due to dancing, even though I think the squat should have passed. It is what it is. Obviously, Delaney's, when you're the athlete yourself, though, and when we're about to get into the bench, I understand though, when you're the athlete, you have a different feeling of frustration when it's you. And I understand also because I'll hear Delaney and I'll look at him and be like, no, I legitimately think your squat was low enough. So then as an athlete, you start looking for reasons why. And maybe I was annoying people. And then you start thinking, whatever. A lot of people, though, I've heard be like, they just don't like me. It's personal. This has happened a couple times.
It's, I think it's like, it's a fun excuse because then you can just brush off responsibility. Be like, oh, they're just haters. But I don't believe that, like, for the most part, judges are vindictive. Um, I do think that, like, maybe it can influence the decisions. You know, Gaston and team don't seem to like the frills. They do seem to want to just be like lifting, get off the stage. We're trying to fit within like a Eurosport 2 hour time slot or whatever. So I can understand sort of the reasoning and the logic behind like, oh, they did it for my dancing. But when it's a call like depth, again, let's just go with Occam's razor. What's the simplest explanation? It wasn't deep enough. I too agree with you that I think it was deep enough. I think it was a good squat, but when everything else is being judged so strictly and it's a call with so much gray area such as depth, why do we need to resort to like conspiracy theories? Like it was depth. It sucks. It was a bad call, but it was a depth call.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, I don't fault Delaney for feeling certain ways because it's different when you're in there and you got feelings attached to
Oh
it.
yeah.
Lifters are going to be different when it's your lift. But from on the outside, yeah, I think it's probably usually Occam's razor is a nice one where it's the simplest answer. They don't care for your dancing, but they're not going to rob you for it. They just are going to be like, I didn't think it was deep enough. So it is what it is. Moving into the bench. So after the squats, how are you feeling anyways? Before we get into the bench, are you thinking you're good? You're pacing because you're still wanting to pace for bronze?
I was asking who missed because even though I went 3 for 3, I pretty much considered it like I had missed my third. Because I basically hit around where like a second should have been. So if I still
Mm.
wanted to be in the running for like any sort of like podium or positioning, I needed people to start missing. So that's the question I asked. I was like, who missed? And the
Lucky for
answer I
you.
got told was a lot of people. Like a lot of people missed. And I was like, nice. I was like, good. Let's bench then. Let's start
Right.
going. I was
Anyone
very
bomb
happy with
out?
that information. Huh?
And you're like, anyone bomb
Yeah.
out?
I
Any
was like,
injuries? All right, well,
any,
maybe bench
yeah.
then.
Is
Maybe in bench they get
anyone
hurt.
limping around? They were like, Jordan's kind of
Yeah,
looks a little like bad. And I was like, perfect. Let's
perfect.
let's
Yeah,
let's go bench.
perfect. You're
Hey,
good. He's ranked ahead of me.
yeah, as a person, as a friend, and as an athlete outside of it, it's like you hate to see it. But when you're competing right there, I'm like, I hope you hurt yourself on your first squat. That sounds perfect.
See,
Excellent.
a lot of people are like, I want to beat you at your best.
No, I've
And
already said that on like officially on the podcast. I don't care. I think that
here's
getting to the last deadlift healthy is part of competition. It's something that
that's true.
I failed at a lot. And I didn't think that was like bad luck. That was just me being a bad competitor. So I don't know. To me, it's just like, okay, you messed up. And now I get to like capitalize on that. Or I'll also mess up. Then we're on a living playing field. But
Mm.
no, I don't care about beating people on their best day. I just care about beating people as is. Everyone knows the date. It's not like anyone was surprised that like we're competing on what was it, June 15th? Um, you got to be ready on the day, and if you're not, you're not.
And if I'm honest, like that is what it is all about. That legitimately is like if it was me in there, I'd be like, I just want to win. I don't care if I win ugly. I don't care what happens. Like if you get injured, bomb out, will I celebrate? Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
probably will. Yeah, if I win, I won. Your body gave in, my body did not. We put our bodies to the test. That's all we're doing.
yeah.
We're just putting our bodies to the test. Yours gave out. I don't know what you did wrong, but something because
Yeah. I
like
just
I'm the
care if they
same way.
show up. If they
Yeah.
don't show up, then it's like, that sucks. But if they show up, all no holds barred.
No holds barred. It's refreshing. You know what? Nobody says this. Nobody. Everybody says, I want to beat you at your best. Nobody comes on here and says what you just said and be
It's
like, you
because
know
I
what? I want to
sneaked
be.
into third. You have a bunch of champions on that are like the best of the best. They need a bigger challenge. I'm like a little rat. I'm like a little weasel. I just like pulled myself from ninth to like just on the podium. Not silver, not gold, third. I just weaseled my way in. So I'm like, yeah,
you like,
I'll take
because
anything I can get. I'm not above them.
yeah, you're like Jurns fell off the table and I ate his food. This is where
Yeah.
I'm at. This is what I'm at.
If he had the best day of his life, I wouldn't be on the podium.
Fair,
So,
fair, yeah.
yeah.
Like, dude, it's refreshing anyways. It's refreshing. This is why I gotta have more third places on the podcast, man. What am I doing bringing the champions on? They're too
Yeah.
uptight. Third places call it like they see it. Shoot from the hip. Um, so how about the bench press? This is where the controversy comes. And it was looking back, we all know all's well that ends well. But and now you got some jokes. I seen you posted in the stories, and people are like, he's got to dye his hair the same as the bench press, whatever. It's become a joke now, and we could all laugh at it because you ended up in bronze. It's all good. But at the time, what the fuck? What were you thinking?
Okay. It is only a joke within like our own circles. Um, Someone sent me a TikTok, I think by Joseph Tang of the UK, and he posted some little like thing where it was like, why did this lift not count? And it was my bench. And there were some comments in there that just got me like angry. It's very clearly like juniors and kids that have like never competed going off about shit they have no idea about, saying like, "Oh, well, he's a world level competitor. He should know the rules. Like, no head overhang is allowed." I printed out the rules for this show. I printed them out. I know the rules. I'll read them right now. The lifter must lie on his back with head, shoulders, and buttocks in contact with the bench surface. Doesn't say anything about head overhang. Doesn't say anything about your hair can't be off. It says it has to be tied up. But there's nothing about like a certain amount of your head percentage wise needs to be on the bench. It just says head needs to be in contact with the bench, which it
Mm,
was. She was telling
technically, it
me
was.
she
Yeah.
was telling me to move down the bench, which means that it's not like my head was coming off of the bench, like forwards, if you will, or upwards. So it wasn't really the hair, because the hair might have like given that like perception of light between my head and the bench. It was that she felt that too much of my head was hanging off of the end of the bench, which is a non-rule, which is why I'm so pissed about it. I will give leniency to referees and judges when it comes to more subjective rules, right? Which is why I feel especially angry and shafted about this one. Because, okay, if you have someone like, again, let's go back to the Laney squat, it's a depth ruling. Depth is, it's a gradient. There's no hard and fast rule on it. So even if it's like excessively deep, you can still at least say that like, man, they're just being really strict this year. With mine, I just felt like this is a non-rule. I'm being told to do something that you have no right to tell me because this isn't a thing. Proprioceptively too is why it's so like it's so infuriating because she's telling me to put my head on the bench and I can feel my skull digging into the pad. So proprioceptively, I don't know what the hell to do. She's telling me to move down, but I'm like, my head's in contact. I can feel it. I know it's not floating because I'm digging it into the pad. Um, so
But
yeah,
she wanted more of your head on the bench. It's what she's
yeah,
saying.
which
She's like, I
isn't,
don't see enough,
not only is
which
it
isn't.
not, it's not a rule, it's geometrically impossible. The head
Mm,
is spherical, the bench is flat. Percentage wise, only so much of it can touch at any given moment. Even if I move further
mm.
down the bench, it's not like more of my head is in contact with the bench. It was a non-rule, which is why I'm still so angry about it. And why I think that like I want to almost go so far as to say like they need to like review their own rules. Like the judges need to be retested because yeah, I got called for something that shouldn't be a call at all. It was a genuine non-rule, but sport, whatever.
At
I'm
least
still pissed.
again, all's well that ends well. It will. I mean, put it this way. We talk about lifters making mistakes, coaching staff making mistakes. If that was a mistake on her end, or from her angle, due to I don't know if it's whether it's from the hair because it's two toned and then the head's hanging off, it looked worse from her angle. And then on second, when you came out for your third, maybe she adjusted her angle and is like, I'm giving him a star command. Either
I
way,
I also sold
I'm
it to
not
her
sure.
on her third with like my setup is I didn't change anything other than I sat down on the bench and then I scooted forward a bit and then I laid down.
Ah,
And I think that's all I did. And she was like,
that's
"Okay, yeah,
that's.
start."
I
Which is
seen him
like
scoot. I
I
seen him
sat
scoot.
and then I scooted. And that's it. So,
That's what it is.
dumbest dumbest call, I think. Genuinely bias again. But I think that might have been like one of the dumbest calls of the meet. And there were some dumb calls.
Do you think she's personal on you? What's your conspiracy theory? You got to have one.
I'm not saying that live.
All right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there. But you end up getting 2 out of 3. All is well that ends well. Uh, what were you thinking after bench? Are you thinking because you'd only missed, well, frig, I guess in your mind's eye, here's the thing. So in your mind's eye, you went 2 for 3 in squats because you ended up with your second attempt weight roughly anyway. So you're like, I'm behind.
Yeah,
Bench happens.
like
Bench
two for
happens,
six.
and you end off with the what is it that we
Or
got here?
four for six.
165.
165,
Okay.
yeah.
So you retook the same weight. You ended off with your second attempt weight again. You've been in this before. Now, this is
Yeah.
where things get dicey. And I can't remember if I said this on the commentary or not, but I feel like this is something I would say. I think I did say this. In South Africa, it came down to the big eraser. You can erase all mistakes and all injustices, or however you want to view it, with that one big eraser you have of the deadlift. South Africa, it didn't happen. Or sorry,
You
not
mean
in
Turkey?
Turkey. In
Yeah.
Turkey, it didn't happen for you. In Turkey, it didn't happen. However, Canadian nationals, it did. So when you came out for the deadlift event, we won't get to the last deadlift yet. That video I do want to play. That video, that's hype. We'll watch that video together. But as you're walking into deadlifts, are you thinking, are you of the mind, this feels like fucking Turkey to me? Or are you of the mind, this is Canadian nationals. I am the miracle man. It ain't over yet. What's going on right now?
I was so filled up with so much frustration. I was kind of just like, let's just get it over with.
Oh,
It,
really?
I didn't really feel like I was ready to clutch. I didn't feel like um I wasn't getting flashbacks to Turkey. I was kind of like, just get me out there and let me just pull. Because at least with pulls, I can like vent my frustrations a bit. And I also know that
Mm.
I pull better frustrated. But yeah, I was kind of just like, let's just get this over with. Let's see what I can pull today, and let's just see where we land. I did think that actually podium was out of the question by this point. I was like, it's over. Like my aspirations of hitting podium are done. Let's just go see. Like I said before, how I asked the Canadian team where we are in the standings, what's going on. After bench, I didn't ask. I was just like, let's just pull. Um, like
It will.
like maybe the silver lining of the meet is like maybe I'll get to have a little deadlift battle with Ina, but let's just go pull. I wasn't defeated. I was kind of like, ah, we got to move forward from this. Let's let's just take what we got, sort of. And I thought that podium was out of the question. I thought it was done. Like I said, I thought I finished like sixth or fifth.
So then when you opened up and you miss your opener, now you're really got to be like, well, fuck me. You're gonna be like, if you thought that going into deads, let's just get this over with. I'm not having a great day, okay? You're like, I swear to God, if one more thing doesn't go my way, let's just get a nice easy opener and let's just have a good deadlift battle. So you walk out there and miss your opening deadlift,
Yeah,
and you got to be like, well,
yeah.
the KOTL podcast is going to be awkward. You're like, well, this is going to be tough.
I felt empty. I just walked back there and I was like, all right. I was like, I'll just go do it again. I don't know. Let's go do it again. Like
So
there was
because you all, sorry, go ahead.
I went from feeling like super frustrated but ready to like bow it out and like at least finish strong. Just like, let's do it again, I guess. Like it's just one of
You're
those
like,
days. Like we're not doing anything today. It's done. It's over.
in your counterpart, Adam, on like our 1-2 punch, this is where he started missing those pulls at the end. and he started falling behind as well. Like the vibe in the back room for Team Canada must not have been overly positive until the very end, obviously. But
Oh, I have no idea. I leaned against a wall and just zoned out until they told me to go lift.
mm,
Polls were like, I've never been so like utterly emotionless and still between polls. I just sat there and just waited until like, all right, bars loaded, go get it. And I was like, okay. And then second, I hit it. It felt like nothing in my hands, and I was just like, I don't care what you load. I was like, I said,
really,
I said, just give it to me. I was like, just load whatever you think is there. Load whatever you want. I don't know what
you
the
like
standard is like. Just load it. I
you
don't
went
care.
you went from watching everybody conversing with every single attempt to not paying attention and be like, what do you want to? I don't fucking care. Just load the goddamn bar. I want to go have a couple drinks.
Yeah,
let's
yeah. I
let's
was
go.
like, just let's just get this over with because I thought
Let's
it was
get
done.
this
I
up.
thought it was over. I was like, all right, just load whatever you think I have, I guess. And I'll be back there. Just tell me to go lift.
Okay, we're gonna watch this last one together. But do you at least know how much is on the bar when you come out to it?
Yeah, because I can count plates.
Okay. So you know this is
$367 and a half.
367.5. That's right.
Yeah.
And dude, this ended up being just 2.5 kilos behind Anna. I
Three
mean,
because he hit 370.5.
oh, that's right. That's right.
Got to give the man his credit. He got that
Give
chip.
them I almost short that people are like this is you being biased because you're Canadian. Let's pull up. Here's your deadlift. All right. I'm gonna pull this bad boy up. Let me share this freaking screen with you, kind sir. All right. This ended up being for the bronze medal to hit the podium like you wanted.
Is what happens when you're a monster deadlifter. With one pull, you can go from ninth to onto the podium. 367.5 is a monstrous pull. It's more than Nick has ever done, but not by a long mile. We've seen Nick pull 361 and win Canadian Nationals.
The 340 was fast, and this is a 27.5 kilo jump. It's not.
You know, it's got to be said, he redid his opening weight twice, but he wasted no energy on a second weight. Maybe that helps him in the long run.
We'll have to see.
He'll be fresh. 367.5 for a dramatic podium finish. Is this a deadlifter's delight day? Here he comes. He's had a frustrating day. It's time to exercise those demons, young man. Let your frustrations out. Oh, Nick Manders! Looks like he's finished in style.
And he did.
3 white lights. And you can never count a deadlifter out, not when they pull 800 pounds in the 83 kilo class.
After a less than perfect day.
Nick said, I don't need the tactical advantage. I pull 800 pounds. And this is what happens. He misses lifts. Things don't go his way. And he erases everything. And now here's Enahoro. 3.
So there it is. And yeah, dude, I keep throwing that quote around. But listen, people literally mention you like Mr. Tactical Advantage and blah, blah, blah. They always bring up that quote as a dynamite quote. But and now that I hear my commentary back, that's how I described your day, was a frustrating day. And I guess now that I hear it back, yeah. Until then.
I guess I wore it on my face. Like I wore it in my body language because I think JP Couchy also did like a review on our session, and he said that I just looked frustrated. Again, like any video I've seen on like that's been sent to me from like TikTok, people are like, he looks so pissed off. There was a comment actually on the White Lights Media, the YouTube thing they did with like the battle between Ina and Delaney, where someone asked, "Where's Nick?" And then someone replied right away. They're like, "Why would we want to see Nick just stomp around like a little baby after missing all of his lifts?" I was like,
You're like, true,
look,
but that hurts. You know?
Yeah, true, but I was pissed, but you would be too. And I was like, I didn't think it was that bad. But I guess like if people are calling me out for it, it's bad. But I was pissed. I don't know. I don't want to like, it's not like I'm gonna miss my 340 opener after a day like that and be like, oh well, and just like walk off all cheery. Like I
Yeah,
wanted to like throw my head through a wall. I was having a bad
you
day.
you were literally like, please let everything go right in the deadlifts. And then you miss your opening pull,
I've
and you're like,
never
well,
missed a deadlift on balance either. Like I think the last time I missed a deadlift like that was 2018. So it was just like I know why too. It was just like this annoying. I fixed it for my second and my third.
what was it?
The carpet. Everyone had to deal with it. So I don't consider this like a major like disadvantage. We all had to deal with it, but like I did make a post about it. It's not like the biggest deal. It was an easy enough fix once I identified it. But yeah, the carpet was very loose. So you can actually see my foot when I start to pull like turn out a bit. And because of that, my feet just turned out and I like slipped. Like I lost my balance. But on my next couple, I just like sort of when I set my feet, I like pulled the carpet out, like I pulled the slack out of it from like my midline, and I secured myself well enough that like that wasn't an issue anymore. But I knew right away too, because when I stepped, when I put my foot down, I was like, my foot's moving under here. Like the carpet's very loose. Um, Again, they should fix that, but we all had to deal with it, so I don't consider that like a bench call where I thought that I was being like weirdly subjected to it. We all had to deal with the carpet. No one else had that issue. I just fixed it. It was fine. But that is what
You
happened.
know what? I can back up that you actually now I remember you showing me when we were on the podium, we took or when we were on the platform, we took a couple pictures and you were like, take a look at this. And I was like, oh damn. And it was right where your feet were, the bubble
Yeah.
up and everything, and I seen it. So I can actually attest. Yes, the carpet had like it was bubbling up by the end of
Yeah.
the deadlift session. But yeah, were you shocked at all after you found out? Like, first off, I got a theory. Before we get to Naharo, Delaney, and how everything ended up on the podium, I have a theory that you took your opening weight twice. I already told you this theory before at the hotel lobby. You took your opening weight twice, and you were fresh as fresh comes for your final pull. And it was crazy pace, the whole nine. Anaharo, who tried going 370 and up twice in the same day, 370, then 380. And Delaney was talking about he was gassed by his last pull. And he's like, man, I don't think I got another pull in me. Some people had admitted, like, by the last pull, I was pretty smoked. And I can't remember what Anaharo said, but I'll have him in a podcast at some point and ask him. But what do you think about when this top end pulls having a little something in the reserves and it might have worked out okay, all's well ends well anyways?
Um, so for Delaney and Ina, they're very inefficient pullers. I know that's crazy to say about Ina because he's the best 83 puller, but his pull is very inefficient. I think anyone that looks at it can tell everything's locking out at different times. He has to brute force a lot of it, and you have to use a lot of musculature. You get pulled out of position, you have to pull yourself back in a lockout. So it's very tiring. I don't really have that issue, right? As long as I'm within a certain percentage of where my top end is, my pulls are so efficient that they don't feel like anything. They're not taxing. So like after that 367, it moved so incredibly well and was so efficient that uh, if that was my second, because everyone was saying, okay, then go do it in the warm-up room. I can't do anything in the warm-up room because like there's just no crowd, there's no hype, there's no reason, there's no point. But I do think that if I hit like my planned second of we were planning to go 363 to take the chip away from Ina, or not away from him, but just to utilize it while we could. I think I had 375 to. I think at least I had a better shot at 380 than Ina did on the day.
Oh my
I
God.
can't say I guarantee 380, but I can say I'll guarantee 375. The way that 367 moved, it barely felt like anything in my hands. I felt fresh after. My big indicator too is that once my deadlifts start to get sloppy, my thumb will go, right? Like the skin will start to tear. My thumb was like perfectly intact after that. So I was fine. Whereas like for Ina and Delaney, with these tight turnarounds, yeah, it's something that they should consider is taking either lighter seconds and bigger jumps or just scrapping the second entirely. That's something I brought up with Ina, as I said that if you're going to only ever shoot for first on your third, start scrapping your second. I put the idea in his mind to start scrapping his opener as well. He didn't bite. Unfortunate.
It's a bait. That was a bait, sir. That's
Oh,
what he
absolutely. But I said it with like enough sincerity that I was like, hopefully it just gets into his head and like maybe next
knew.
world.
You're like, hey man, I care about you. You know that.
Yeah, I'm
I
like,
care
you,
about you.
you look, you need to just like, don't even do the opener. Just like, just do the third. And then
You
like he
80s.
bombs out, and I'm like, woo!
Yeah,
It worked.
he sees video you come out afterwards like, fuck yeah.
But right
Fuck yeah,
away
Sheffield.
he was like, I'm not doing that.
Sheffield
I was like, all
SPD,
right, my
where are
bad.
you? Yeah,
So,
frig.
I tried.
Yeah, fair enough, man. This you are the guy who said earlier, like I just want to beat you. I don't care if
Yeah,
it's your
I just
best day.
wanna
I don't
win.
care if you fell for tactics and tricks. But yeah, I do think if you're gonna go all in on your final pull, like, and he does, we all know how the story ends. We all know he's gonna load up on his final pull and go for that gold medal. And he's already medaled now twice at the World Championships. How many times do you want a podium? And or if you really want to be a world champion, if this is really like, how much would you bank on that world title when you already have podium finishes now 2 years in a row? Would you, if I said to you, let's conserve energy? Or if you want a second, it's super light, way lighter, and we're taking a big jump at the end because you got to be as fresh as possible. And you're right. And Ahoro's freaking polls come up like segments.
Yeah.
And his coach says it comes up like segments, and it comes up like a cork. He's on corkscrewing almost, and then it starts coming out of his hands, etc. If you only got one big one like that, because it is kind of, and it might not be something he could fix. It might be the imbalances in his body. So it's just the way it's going to be. I don't know. And maybe he can minimize how much that looks, but it's always going to be a little bit untidy.
Yeah.
You got to figure this out and work with what you have. And I'm thinking moving forward now after I see it. And this is 2020 hindsight. His coaching staff did the best they could on the day. I mean, it's easy doing 2020 hindsight. I get it. But now moving forward, I think they should have that conversation with them amongst themselves anyways. Be like, do we just want to go all in here? Do we want to win this? Do we take a second, or do we take a really light second and we just go all in on the last one? But let me put this out there, Nick. Do you have to go pee, sir?
I was waiting for you to finish, and I was going to interject and be like, I'll answer that in a second and then go.
Dog, do I not know you or what?
I get fidgety. I move around a lot. Yeah.
You can't play poker because people read you like a book. If you're frustrated, you got to pee, or
I
suck
at it. Yeah.
Listen,
I don't play poker. I play poker online. Yeah. All right.
Okay,
I'll
go
be
to the
right back.
washroom. We'll finish this.
Hey, honestly,
All
for
right.
me,
So
after an hour and a half only pissing once, that's way better than last
dude,
time.
I couldn't be
doing
prouder.
great.
This is like you on the podium all over again. I couldn't be prouder, dog. So I was just queuing up and Aharo in how going for gold, blah blah blah. However, that's 2022, that's 2023, but 2024 might be a little different because previously it would be a given and Aharo's going to be deadlifting last. 2024, are you out deadlifting in Aharo?
I will out deadlift him, but I don't know if I'm going to be the one pulling last. I think that mindset wise, that man, like, ideally, if we're both going into pulls with two pulls and it's like coming up to the third, we're both pulling for like the same position or whatever, it becomes a game of chicken. And I think I lose that game of chicken. I think the way that I pull and the way Ina pulls and the way Ina thinks versus the way that I think, I'm much more willing to just put in a number that I think will like secure me the spot, and Ina's more willing to wait and see and then just like put it all on the line. I think that I definitely have it within me to push him past that position, but I'm not going to outpull him because that would mean that he would need to attempt something and then I would need to attempt something more. And I do think that like through almost luck, Ina can roll a better dice than I can almost on deads, right? Like if he is to attempt something and he hits it and it's like an all-out max attempt, I can't match that per se. Like, let's throw it out there. If Ina attempted 400 and I attempted 400, our chances are both pretty low, but he has a slightly better chance. And then if he misses it, I think that he would attempt something so high that I can't do it. So I'm not pulling last with Ina ever. It's a game of chicken, and I'm losing it every time.
In a year's time, not attempt selection wise, because you might be right in terms of his mentality. But let's just say top end deadlift strength. Do you think you're outpacing him where you could catch up in its parity? Or do you think you might even be stronger top end strength pull for pull by next Worlds? And this is a year from now, by next Worlds.
I think by next Worlds, I outpull Ina 4 times out of 5. Because again, he has that luck factor. He has that luck factor where if he just, like, if the stars align almost and he just wedges them perfectly, we almost saw 385, which 380 this year barely moved. So he does just have that weird sort of like, it might. But I think other than those weird times that we actually haven't seen yet, like we haven't seen 380 plus move yet. I think I'll pull him in a year.
And this is where that his game planning will have to adjust to the field of Worlds that he's going to be facing, because you're going to be hitting your seconds smooth, like you said. If you're that type of deadlifter where your seconds are pretty bang on, technically speaking, you're pretty bang on, and you could fall back onto your second, but he's a little more hit and missish. Yeah, it depends on, it's going to be tough. It changes everything now that he's got to deal with you. If you weren't around before you entered the picture, his game plan is always easy peasy. Just I pull last. It's it. I'm always going to pull last. I'll always have the last say. I get to decide what medal I get. It's up to me what medal. Do I want gold? Do I want silver? Do I want bronze? I will decide. Thank you very much. Because of your emergence into the scene, now they're like, now we got to deal with Nick. We don't get to decide. And not only, you're not just a guy who's pulling for deadlift medal, though. You're good enough to pull for the podium as well, is the problem. If you were an amazing deadlifter, but you were consistently in 5th or 6th, they're like, whatever, great. Let him pull for a deadlift medal. He's not. But the thing is, you're actually podiuming. So now it's like, oh, shit. We got another deadlifter in. And by next year, I don't know. We don't know where you'll be at.
Yeah. I mean, even this year, if presumably I get my second bench, we jump 5, I get my third bench, we're now in a close enough spot to second, right? Because Ina only beat me by 7.5 kilos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take off 5 from bench, that's a 2.5 kilo gap. He's now put into a position where does he pull for gold or does he secure second, right? Because at that point, I think even the Team Canadian staff would be like, it's another 2 percentage-wise on that kind of pull. Do we load for bronze or do we load for silver? Just load for silver, right? So then what is he going to do? And yeah, hopefully in 2024, I put together enough of a meet, fingers crossed, subtotal-wise and leading up to third pull, that it is no longer just me pulling into bronze, and then, because Ina didn't have to actually worry about me this meet. It sounds fun storyline-wise to talk about, but really, Ina was focused on Delaney. Delaney was focused on Ina once he snuck up, and they could forget about the rest of us. Like you had that thing on your King of the Lift story, talking about how I wasn't featured on the White Lights Media video regarding the battle for gold. The reason I wasn't part of that video is because I never had a shot at gold. Ina did. Ina's third pull was for gold, but at no point was I taking any lift that could have put me anywhere past bronze, right? So but hopefully by 2024 that changes. I would love it to change. That's the goal. Like I'll say it now, my goal this meet was to come third. I thought that anything above that was a fairy tale. And maybe that's a bit of like a bit like a lack of confidence in myself, feeling like I maybe didn't belong. But after this meet, after podiuming at Open and Worlds, no, I'm in the conversation. I am a proper 83 lifter. I'm just as much of a threat as anyone else. Next year, I'm not gonna just settle and like walk into the meet thinking third is good enough. Like, I'll be up there with just like Ina. I'm pulling for the win, or at least to take Ina's spot if he's second, to make him think about it. Does he defend second or does he go for gold? But yeah, I want to threaten these guys.
That's exactly what. Yeah, if somebody drops the ball and it's a tough day, look at South Africa, 802.51. Now, for sure, Delaney's total came down, whatever the heck, like 20 kilos, and that happens on World sometime. But everyone's total came down South Africa. But if that happens and your total doesn't come down, you're pulling for gold. However, if Delaney's on point and he's doing whatever the hell he's doing, then yes, you can apply pressure from behind. And instead of Enaharo just being like, I'm going after Delaney and nobody's chasing me. Yes, Nick is. There will be people. Yes, they will be. Nick will be, I will. And because because you already got bronze and you've got bronze, you've already podiumed. You might have the conversation with yourself and be like, because you will probably have someone going after your bronze. It's too tight. It's just too tight a race in the 83s. Someone's probably going to threaten you from behind, coming from fourth or fifth as well, going for your bronze. You might have a 60-second conversation with the Canadian coaching staff. Are you willing to risk your bronze medal for that silver? And what helps you make that decision is, I already have a bronze medal at home. I don't have a silver yet. Sometimes, or maybe that day you're like, nah, let's end up on the podium. So I'm a consistent podium favorite year after year. People remember you on the podium. I don't know how you're gonna have that conversation. I do know what you were like in Turkey. but that was Turkey, that was Junior Worlds, and you said yourself like podium doesn't exist at Junior Worlds, only a champion. So you went all in, and it's a little different at Open Worlds, and it's true. You podium at Open Worlds, everybody's like, well, I mean, everyone knows how difficult Open Worlds is, and everyone's gonna be like, well, hats off to you. So I don't know. Maybe you don't even know until you get there and you start thinking about it. But that's a conversation to have. In terms of the really,
I want to win. I do want to win. I want to at least fight for it. But yeah, I don't want to have bronze again. If that's what we have to settle for, that's what we have to settle for. But in terms of just pure mindset going into meets now, we don't settle for bronze anymore.
So when you have that conversation, like, do you pull to defend bronze or do you pull for silver and risk bronze? You're like, we're risking bronze. We're not defending.
Well, the conversation on the day, like that 60-second conversation before you input the attempt, that's on the day. I don't even think about that shit like the day before the meet. Like I'm very much, especially now as an open lifter, I think that like junior Nick and open Nick are very different. In that whatever happens on the day happens. Like there is no game plan. There is no like, no, I need to hit these numbers, otherwise like things won't go right. Like this is how I imagined it. You need to be adaptable. And I think that you need to sort of like set those goals aside on game day and just execute, compete, trust that you'll end up where you're supposed to. But training wise and going into the meet, that's the shift in my head. It is now shifted from I just want a podium to I want to win.
Yeah. And yeah, that's what the experience and the accumulation of achievements do for you as well. It makes it easy to do that. Now, talking about the Canadian coaching staff being conservative, what was your take on Jessica Bittner pulling for silver instead of gold when it's 3 kilos more?
Made total sense. I mean, that whole class, maybe it is like, I like Jess. I'm obviously Canadian. I thought that she got shafted a bit because her second deadlift, no idea what they called it for. Agata's bench, I like Agata as well. She gave me some vodka after the banquet, so she's cool. But her bench shouldn't have counted, and the reason why it did count is infuriating because I know exactly why it counted. I went to jury, but the jury replay doesn't have audio. Can you believe that? The jury replay in a sport that necessitates audio due to commands doesn't have audio. So if someone gets called on skipping commands, but there's no audio, they gave her the lift. aside from just like the bench step thing, that's just infuriating. That is like, as someone cheering for Jess, at least, that is annoying as all hell. And then her second dead as well. Very clean pull. Don't know what they called it for. But yeah, I guess in that case, when you have so many things going against you, you have a second pull that was already called for reds, and you don't really know why. And it probably was ramping. And with the way that Jess lifts, like the way she pulls, going up in weight, the ramping is probably only going to get worse. And when you're already secured bronze, you're like, what do we do with this pull? Even though it is only 3 kilos, you probably still go with just like the absolute safest denominator. Like, we already technically missed what was the jump? Do you know? It was like 250.
I'm gonna pull it up right now.
It was like 250 something to 260 something. But you've already technically missed 250 something. Percentage wise, especially for females, that's a lot. And you're gonna go up, gotta go up by like the absolute smallest increment. So I actually don't think that was a bad call at all by Garrett and Ryan.
All right, let me take a look at the numbers here. So Jess
252 or 253? Because it wasn't a record.
Jess hit 240, missed 252.5 on her second, and then pulled 263 on her third attempt and missed. So here's my take on this. Okay. I look at it like this. When it's 3 kilos, and let me also say, those Canadian fellas are bang on. So, and I don't think that I'm a better handler than them. And I've seen them. They got Jess a world title in the closest battle in 2022, and it was sensational. I mean, they are top of the line handlers. Don't get me wrong. And Eric Helms and all of them, they're geniuses at work. So let me just throw that out there. But for me, Jess is the world champion. And if she's going to miss her last pull, if it's an all or nothing type of deal, Jess doesn't concede the world title. She throws on that 3 kilos and she pulls to defend her world title. And if she misses, she goes home telling everybody, I missed pulling for gold. And that's how I lost my world title. And it's a lot easier than telling the story. By the end of the battle, I had conceded that I had already lost and I didn't even try. And I pulled for silver and missed silver and ended up with bronze. That's a lot harsher a story to tell everybody and to sit with for a year until next Worlds. And when I watch that, I tell myself stuff like how does this person going to deal with this? How do we envision this person leaves this day? They're going to leave 3 more kilos. They have the peace of mind knowing either you're going to become a world champion or you're leaving with the bronze and you had the winning medal, you had the winning pull in your hands and you went out on your shield. And when you go home, you tell everyone, what can I say? I pulled for gold. That's the way you're supposed to do, huh? I'm the world champ. You're going to take it from me. You're going to fight me for it. But I don't concede it. Not for 3 kilos. I don't concede my throne for 3 kilos. I'm the queen of the 76s. Conceding hurts. That's what hurt me. She's the champ and she conceded for 3 kilos. Not her. I don't know if she was involved in that conversation or whatnot. But that's where I'm like, no. Jess doesn't advocate the throne. You come to her fucking walls of her castle and she meets you at the walls and you fight for it. You know what I'm saying? You don't concede. You're not for 3 kilos. That's why I say that. However, having said that, they are literally the ones who got her that throne. They're literally the coaching staff that load her up right to the end. Expert attempts to push Team Poland right to the end, just loaded up with the final pull and clinch the world title. And they've done this kind of thing before, and they're geniuses at play. So I'm not pushing the issue or trying to make it a bigger thing than it is. Yeah, I'm just saying you're not going to agree with everything. It is what it is. It's okay.
Yeah, I guess if it is only 3 kilos.
I swear you did. Did my Game of Thrones style visionary make you be like, Nick, you're going to grab your sword and you're going to meet these guys?
Yeah, die on your shield.
You're going to die in your shield?
Yeah,
or are you going to go at the back door and advocate the throne?
I've temporarily turned into Gavin Aiden. I'm going to start advocating for burning your ships. No.
You know damn well what Gavin Aiden would have done.
Yes. His third squad would have gotten overturned again.
That's right. That's right.
I like,
she went 3
for 3
in squads.
He's gonna come to Alberta. I hope he doesn't hunt me down. I guess yeah, only 3 kilos, but it was already gonna be such an ask. I guess that's another one of those scenarios where you're almost happy that they miss. Like,
But my point is, if you think is a huge ask and she might miss, let her miss pulling for gold and going home being like, when she has to tell the story, it's like, yeah, I pulled for gold, had it up to the knees, didn't get it. Or, yeah, you know what? I conceded and just pulled for silver.
yeah, but
Missed.
on the opposite end of that hypothetical, you throw in an extra 3 kilos and you're like, and then like it just gets to lockout and like the slightest ramp or the slightest hitch or like it falls, like it drops. You're like, what if it was three
That's okay.
kilos less?
Yeah, exactly. So if you're having this conversation with someone like Jess or Taylor or or Delaney, it every 9 times out of 10, if I'm like, would you want to pull for the win? And we just had this conversation. Would you want to risk silver and pull for the win? They'd be like 100%. Like, well, I could have shaved off 3 kilos and you could have walked away with silver, not bronze. They'd be like, let me pull for the win. I think every time, I think when you're at that level, I think it's like, would you risk silver to pull for but you could add silver. I think Jess is like, dog, I lost. Gavin Aiden's the same way where he's like, I feel like I lost. When they come in, when you reach a certain level, when you hit silver, all you're thinking is I fucking lost. I lost. I lost my title. So when you tell her, oh man, I feel bad. You could have got gold medal. If I shaved off 3 kilos, maybe you would have got silver. She would have been like, I, I don't give a shit, man. Are you telling me I would have lost either way? You know what I mean?
I
Like
think
Jackal.
yeah, the
Sorry, go ahead.
unfortunate reality then of that conversation is this, that you are, or of that mindset as an athlete, is that you're entering your third deadlift and you've already lost. I mean, it's weird that this is
Yeah.
coming from me, but you need to just like cut loose ends and just take what's there. Sometimes you need to just like go for a plan B. I think also we're talking about Team Canada, right? So I don't know how the other countries operate, but Team Canada does not treat their athletes as individuals in to the same degree of like uh agency over attempts. I'm pretty sure you sign away your right to even do that. Like it's somewhere in the contract that Team Canada gets final say over every attempt, and their only goal is to increase team points as much as possible. So if they really do feel that you have next to 0% chance of winning gold, but a decently higher chance of winning silver, it doesn't matter how much you protest that, they're loading silver. They don't really, and I actually think that this is good from them because athletes tend to bite off more than they can chew. I want to say that before it comes off as me like lambasting the Canadian team. But athletes to them are tools. It's not so much anymore that like it's not like at a local meet where your handler is there to help you see out your vision. You are there to help Team Canada place as high as possible. Um, if that makes sense. Like you are no
And
longer they're no longer your handlers. They are your coaches and you are their athlete, right?
and I respect that too. That's why I don't want to belabor too much. It wasn't it's just because it was 3 kilos or not. I agree if someone's like protesting and like you were saying, if this is zero chance. But that's why it was when it's 3 kilos, I'm like, let her pull, let her load up. But I do get your point. They have a different responsibility than me too. I'm looking at this as a fan. I'm looking at this as a sports commentator who has storylines to tell and etc. Whereas they're looking at this as we need team points. If we think silver is, even though 3 kilos, 3 kilos is a lot at the top end, and that'll net Team Canada, yeah, that's another point. And when they're looking at it, because a lot of these national teams, they go home and they get judged on how you did. Some years Team Canada's in the top five. Some years if you dip below and you're trying to come back as a Team Canada coach again, maybe they're looking at you like, wow, under you as the coaching, Team Canada didn't do as highly as we thought they should have. And this is the bigger picture responsibilities that those coaching staff have that I don't have to worry about as a fan who can nitpick and look at certain things. And that's why I say they're great at what they do. I mean, they have gotten with the talent that Team Canada has, They've gotten world titles, when Jeff Butt's in there. He wasn't there this year, but for Maria T, he was there when Jess won, and Garrett was there when Jess won, to like the junior coaching staff they've done well. They've got like Ore Lee, obviously a junior champ coming into the Open this year as well. They've done their thing. And they also let the hammer fly at juniors. You know what I mean? It's different as juniors, but
no, that actually was that was Graham letting me let the hammer fly. He actually got
okay.
he got a little bit of flack from Garrett after the fact, and he was like, "That is not
Okay,
happening ever again."
Well, we'll see. Look, I don't mind. I said this at Junior Worlds. When you posted, I think you posted, was it the Batman, the Joker? And you said I got a little silly.
Oh, that was just like a random stock image of some dude in an insane asylum.
Okay,
Yeah, that was just
okay.
some random meme I found.
Well, I was like, go all in. When I was watching it, I was hoping you're gonna go all in. I was glad you did. And I don't know, man. It's a fan watching, but again, Garrett's got to worry about team points, etc., and he's got bigger obligations. Whereas I'm looking at this as a fan, of course. As a fan watching, you're going to be like, please don't do the safe.
You want to
please
see
go all in.
drama. It's no
Let's see
fun
some
to watch
drama.
someone pull for like bronze to silver, to be honest. It's a little fun, but it's not as fun.
Not as fun as Anahoro loading up, coming from even you going from ninth to third. Well, as a commentator, when I say that on the stream, and I know, by the way, you're the white lace. You talk about the white lace packages. I've said this a couple times on the podcast now, but Eurosport essentially does their version of the white lace packages, but it's more robust, and they'll probably have you in it. So when they show the highlight reels of the 83s, which is like 45 minutes long with commercials like an hour, they're going to have me saying that part, being like, he's coming from ninth to third with one final pull. He gets to exercise all these demons on a frustrating day. That's the storyline. When people watch, as a guy who's just tuning in, being like, what is this powerlifting? And they see that, they're like, oh shit, this guy's about to jump in like how you like me now type of move and come from ninth to the podium with the last pull. That's good sports, though. That's like the guy who's losing the fight, and in the 12th round, he knocks out the champ, and he's like, oh, damn. And everyone's like, oh my God, you should have seen this. As a sports viewer, it's big. It's pretty big. But again, there's different ways of looking at this thing. But yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. How about I wanted to get your opinion on also Canadians, Brit. Listen, right down to the last, it came down to the last freaking session, man. For a second there, so Jess doesn't win, and looked like Team Canada was going to leave. Look, we got some podium. Aurelie finished us off podium, but did the old pull in the warm-up room, whatever.
Yeah, she was good for 200. I was trying to bully her into pulling 200 at the training room, and Rory was not happy with that, but whatever.
You were bullying her into.
I was like, just do it. Just pull it. I'll load it. Just pull it. Oh, whatever.
But she's someone to watch, obviously, for the future, because what is she, 21, 22? She's still a junior, isn't she?
Is she still a junior?
She's a reigning junior champ. She might be. If she's not a junior, she's just out of. Yep. And actually, I got the year she's born right in front of me. What am I being lazy for? She was born in 1999. All right, she's not going to be a junior.
She's no longer a junior. She is the same age I am.
That's right.
We are now old.
She's old, is what I'm trying to say. She's probably past her prime, but
and she's washed.
She's washed. Here we go. That's the soundbite I'm going to play. But so Canada got a couple of podiums, did pretty good, but at the very last session, 84 plus. Holy shit! It just hit the fan, dude. Did you see this one live or?
Yes, I did see it live.
Were you in the stands or watching online?
No, I was in the stands.
So
I every single session, or not every single session, but a lot of sessions after mine, I was in the stands with a bunch of McDonald's and a bunch of beer from McDonald's. So it was a good time.
Nice.
Yeah,
Classy dude, man.
Malta has junior chickens for like €1 each, and like it's a piece of chicken breast on a bun, and they also have beers for like €2 each. So I would just go there with like 5 junior chickens and like a 6-pack, and sit in the stands. It was a good time. So yeah, I did see the 84s live, and I felt weirdly patriotic singing the Canadian anthem at IPF Worlds. I won't lie.
Well, you were also like 6 beers deep and 6 chickens deep.
Yeah, I was
So,
like,
yeah,
I was like
everyone's
half shit faced, but I was like, this is crazy. I was like, Canadian anthem. Yeah.
But
Hey,
what a wild
I
shootout.
still held myself better than Bonica did up there. So
There it is. Whoa, here we go. Here we go. We all knew this was coming. But yeah. So it was crazy. This was one of the live sessions. So Eurosport did highlights for the other sessions. Millions of people are going to watch that. Beautiful. And if they're even close to the white lights version highlights, and they are similar, people we're gonna be converting some fans because white lights did a freaking fantastic job. Live session, and they're hoping Eurosport is like, God, we need this to be a barn burner. We need this to be, a drag out battle. And those ladies, obviously Jesus did his damn thing and he won easy, but those freaking ladies, man, Britt coming like adding 30 kilos onto her total. What the hell? And Bonica hitting, there was like 4 world record squats in there. It was crazy because Bonica hit one in her second, then again on her third, leaving with 289. And Britt broke the world record. Sonita broke the world record. Absolutely crazy back and forth. And then in the bench press, and then the deadlifts come. And this is where things get a little spicy. Okay, and I'm not talking about your chickens. All right, I'm not talking about your junior chickens. One key part Matt Gary had mentioned on the recap show. Team USA usually phenomenal. Again, they're phenomenal coaching staff. Everybody does small mistakes here and there, but moved Bonica's opening dead a little bit heavier because they said they thought they needed the kilos. You don't get your kilos off your opener. If you're banking on that, it's dangerous because
it's
her
already
top
over.
End, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Her top end deadlift is, let me pull this up because I don't want to misquote. I'll pull up her. Okay, Bonica Brown.
Hold on. You pull that up. I drink too much aloe vera because my throat hurts. I gotta go pee again.
Okay, go pee again. That sounds good. This is our break. Okay. So Bonica, by the way, if you call her Bonica, her name is Bonica. She'll let you know. But
what if I call her Bomica?
Oh shh. Holy fucking there. Fuck, man. Where do you come up with this shit?
Oh, that one's not me. I'm not gonna say who said it because I feel like they'll probably get in trouble. But like,
damn,
I'll subtweet
son. But you'll come on Kingland's podcast and toss it out there. There's some people in France right now who are going to be slapping their knees when they listen. It's like, oh my God, he's doing it again. Oh wow. Anyways, all right. Well, she's the 84 plus GOAT. She could take it. She's won enough titles. But so Bonica hit 252.5 is her PR deadlift. They put up her deadlift opener to 240. So Matt Gary is the game day GOAT, was saying that's extremely close. If your top end you've ever hit on comp is 252.5, according to Open Powerlifting, and your opening pull is 240, there's very little wiggle room in the deadlift event to go to second, to go to third. Oh, and by the way, if you end up having to retake, etc., it gets dicey. So a very rare flub on Team USA in terms of that. They don't make very many mistakes. They're like the Canadian coaching staff, amongst the best in the world. That needs to be said. But she does have 3 kicks at it. What did you think?
That was dumb. That like she's already historically had issues with like heavy pulls, like World Games. Like this has happened before, sort of. It's the reason that she has blocked a lot of Canadians is because Rhea Stinn beat her at Worlds over her lack of deadlifting performance. So to sort of bank on suddenly performing well in the deadlifts again is a really odd move and one that I don't know if it really paid off all that well.
No,
But
no, sir.
didn't pay off too well, did it?
No,
Yeah,
but like,
just
what do
weird.
you think? What do you think about the actual polls themselves? Like, she thought it
Oh,
was controversial.
they were bad, and obviously I'm cheering for the Canadian. I wanted Brittany Schlater to win, and I'm so happy that she did. And you know my mentality on things. If someone loses, if someone bombs out, that's just better, right? Because then we get to win easier. So every time I saw her getting like two whites, but then I looked over, like I had the perfect view where I would see the stage and then what's the jury doing? And the jury was talking amongst each other. I was like, it's gonna get overruled. Like, look at them. They're all shaking their head no. They're pointing at the screen. Lo and behold, overruled. I was like, all right, yeah, that's the good call. Um, I didn't have the same vantage point as I did with like Taylor's, where I could say like absolutely for sure that shouldn't have counted. But it was still the polls were still bad enough that like you could tell from like an upper stands point of view. I was like, these don't look clean. Again, like when people lock out a poll well, they sort of relax. You know what I mean? They like lean back, they settle, and they sort of like they can nearly exhale. They can nearly like she never had that. She sort of like pulled it into herself, and then like there's that constant like fight against the bar until you get that down command. So it was never sold as like a good pull ever. Um, I don't think she was robbed. I think that they made bad decisions and she wasn't able to uh collect herself after those bad decisions and it paid off the way it did. And then she let herself continue to spiral even after deadlifts.
So, okay. So we'll talk on that. So usually Bonica wins. Bonica is the greatest 84 plus of all time. She's won world titles in and of equipment, world games, blah, yada yada. Very rarely is she going to lose, but not only the first time she lose in ever. I mean, you got to go way far back for her Bonica to actually take an L. Um, she bombed out and did not handle it very well. What are you thinking here? You like spice, but were you thinking?
So I actually was out of character nice at first. I was in the stands. Everyone was starting to like, because let's be honest, not a lot of people stick around for podium. So everyone's starting to like leave. I was still there because Team Canada was sitting there waiting to sing the anthem. And I saw Bonica sitting there on her phone. Bonica, Bonica, I don't care. Sitting there on her phone. Um, well, first she was just like, she wasn't on her phone yet. Uh, but her body language was like she was leaning against the backdrop. Which the backdrop is not like especially sturdy. So I was like that. I was just kind of watching to see like, is it gonna fall over? Because like it's just like a big like fabric backdrop, whatever. That
It's like
said
a
like power.
tarpish.
Yeah, it's like a
It's not a wall.
tarpish
It's not
thing.
an actual wall.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not
an
an
actual
actual
wall.
wall. So I was like, it's weird that you'd lean on that. And it also said like power lifting or whatever at the top. Do you remember that? Hilarious. There's like the spelling error on that tarp. It's great. Anyways, so I was watching for that. And then when she pulled her phone out, I was like, there's no way. But I was like, you know what? She had a really bad day. I took a photo and I posted it on my close friend story. And I was like, this is crazy. But it's on my close friend story. There's like 70 people on there. I'm like, it's fine. Like, barely anyone's going to know about this, blah, blah. But then I saw her stories. They got forwarded to me by a close friend saying, like, is there any rules saying I have to attend the medal ceremony? And then, like bitching about like the calls. So I'm like, you're sitting there while like our Canada is like our Canadian is standing on the podium. You're sitting there bemoaning being there. So I took it off the close friend story and I put it on public and I put her on blast. And I think that story got like 500 shares or something before it expired.
Oh
Like it
shit!
blew up. Like my stories of her just like sitting there on her phone being like, not a great look, blew up. And I'm very happy that they did because I went from being like, you know what? Sometimes even I'm a sore loser. I think that when I was up there during like the podium thing, because I wasn't exceptionally happy about my performance, um, I make some faces. My body language looks a little bit frustrated, like the white lights commenter said, like stomp around like an angry baby. But there's a difference between feeling a bit upset about your performance and just being like outwardly disrespectful to that degree. Um, and even coming from me, I think that is something that deserves to be put on blast publicly, and it's why like I'm so comfortable being so disrespectful to her on here because I almost feel like she deserves it. I don't feel any remorse for her after that. I did up until I saw what she was posting, and it was sort of like, all right, I don't care.
It's something. Here's what I would encourage most people. If you're ever in a situation like something bad happened at the Worlds or whatever the situation is, give yourself 24 hours. Don't post immediately. She literally posted while, like, it looked like she's posting
Yeah.
while on the medal ceremony. I don't know if she's just checking replies to what she posted 2 seconds before she came out. It really doesn't matter though. Like, it looked like almost overlap time. And then to be seen on there, you know, yeah, people are collecting medals and whatnot, and you're doing it. It's not great. It's not great. The best thing you could do is take 24 hours. When Taylor Atwood was super duper mad about the calls, etc.,
I was
as you
actually
would
going to bring him
expect,
up.
he said he posted the only thing he posted, and he's mad to your inner circle. You say what you vent because it's your inner circle, whatever. But when you go public, he posted congratulations, tagged Callie Johansson, said congratulations, great job, whatever. And then I said, do you want to come on the podcast and talk? Not right away, but like, when a couple of weeks afterwards, when Dussel's like, we're 2 weeks after right now. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to take some time on this one. And I said, you take as much time as you need. And that's how you play it. I mean, you give yourself time, you face forward, just put Pena at same thing for Euros when he bombed. Me and Pena talked in DMs. He talked about it on the podcast. And he's like, you told me don't post anything for 24 to 48 hours. And then, because he was super upset. And then he's like, you know what? By the time 24 to 48 hours pass by, even somebody telling you not to do that makes you second guess what you're about to when you're going to finally post. And then he's like, I was already on my redemption story and like dealing with it in different ways and whatever. Just resist that urge when the shit hits the fan on you. Be like, I'm going to wait 24 hours, 48 hours. Let me just see how I feel. And then in that 24 to 48 hours, you're going to talk to your inner circle. You will mention it and say the same thing. You ever get mad about something and you say the same thing over and over and over to your boys? And by the end of the night, they're like, fuck me, Nick. All right, dude. You're saying we're going to double back on this again.
It's
But
like
the
me
thing
with the
is,
bench. I can't get over
that's
it.
yeah. You're right. You came with the bench rules, Brian. So
I
there we go.
printed
You
them
do
out.
know what I
Yeah.
mean. You do know what I mean. So, but the good thing about that is when 24 hours pass, when you have said the same thing over and over and over to your friends, and it's your inner circle, it's okay. They get it. They got your back. You exhaust that. And by the time 24 hours pass, you've said it so many times over. You exhausted it all. You got it out your system. 48 hours goes, fine. It's your inner circle. They get it. They aren't going to hold nothing against you, what you said, because you got their back the same and you're their venting system. And then 48 hours pass. You've already gone through it. You've gone through it a million times. You saw it a million times. You're past the anger stage, and now you're in a different stage. And if you want to talk about it now, when you're past the anger stage and you've exhausted that, now's the time. And in crisis mode, in a lot of avenues in life, give yourself that. So if someone pisses you off in life that's close to you, be like, I'm going to give myself a minute. If they're pressing you for something, be like, no, give me a day because I don't want to respond right now. But immediately, that's where you make mistakes. Like I think it's. I'm not even piling on here. I think everyone would agree it was a mistake to have handled it the way she handled it. Is probably something she'd look back and be like, you know what? Maybe wish I didn't do it like that. you know,
Is it?
maybe because people are getting their medals and you're not even paying attention. You're acting like you don't want to be there, and they don't. It's not about them.
She's had a history though of like being a bit of a poor sport, being a bit of a like this isn't out of line of her character, which is a bit more concerning. Which I don't know, like I forget exactly what she said. She's like she's just being honest, something along those lines. But if that's just how she is, that is just how she is. I think at least there's like a time and a place, if nothing else. like you said, after 48 hours, it's out of your system. I think even if 48 hours has passed and it's not out of your system, you can still bitch and moan online. Um, Hell, I would have been okay with her bitching and moaning immediately after the ceremony. Personally, I would have been like, that's fine. If the ceremony had passed and then she walked behind that curtain to her bag, picked up her phone, and immediately started going off, cool. I'd be like, yeah, you're pissed. I get it. It's the it's the disrespect of taking the spotlight away from someone who's earned it through just your own petty actions, because like she has actually succeeded in doing that, in becoming the center of attention in that medal ceremony, which medal ceremonies are supposed to be somewhat boring. You focus on the person that won and they deserve to have that limelight on them. The entire focus should just be on them with the anthem playing. That's a deserved position, but the focus of the 84 plus podium ceremony is Bamaka being a poor sport. And that's the part that really rubs me the wrong way, is that like she got away with it. I mean, that's what we're talking about right now. Like she bombed out and yet is still somehow the most talked about person of that session. And that's gross.
For sure. Yeah, that's what I don't think she was getting is people are going to be upset when you're in the background doing that. I don't think she realized there's anthems being played and there's people getting medals, etc. And that's going to be a big hyper focus. And if you post that and then walk out, everyone's going to be seeing you post that, and you timed it at that time on purpose. So
yes,
even if you were,
it feels purposeful. There's no way that you're that like out of it that you don't know that there's cameras on you, there's people on you. You're walking out onto a stage. There's no way you're looking up and being like, oh yeah, I'm on my phone. Like, it's purposeful. Like, you're actively trying to take away the attention from others that have beat you and redirect it onto yourself because you can't believe that you're not the one on the podium right now. It is so gross. Genuinely, she could not have waited 3 minutes. So I have very little to zero respect for her, and yeah.
I mean, put it this way though.
Got a great photo with her though.
That's the thing is you ended up fucking at the banquet. I don't know how many spicy chickens you had in you and how many beers you had in you, but you somehow got a picture with her. And dude, did she not know? She must not have known, seen your stories yet or whatever, but you guys got a picture together.
I was very nervous about doing it, but the people around me, who I will not name names, were like, you have to. It'd be so funny. I was like, I really don't want to. I was like, I'm really scared. She could kill me right now. I am like not in a position to defend myself. Like, I was very out of it. They're like, you have to. I was like, okay. It's like, take my phone. Dude, I was like, Bonica, I was actually sober. I was like, Bonica, can we have a picture? Can we have a picture? And she was like, if you want to. And we took it and I ran away. We were going to actually be in that bar and like visit it. We left the bar. We have to evacuate, go somewhere else.
You were the ultimate powerlifting troll at this point, man. It's become in the last, like, from one King of Lift episode through Worlds, and I'm sure after this drops, dude,
I'm happy that this is my legacy.
Nick, oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh. But all right, so my hope is when all the dust settles, Bonica's like, yeah, that wasn't, she comes around. And yeah, and just freaking and all this changes.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all love a redemption story. I'm not above forget. Like, not that my forgiveness means anything, but like, I'm not going to like forever be like, you're a disgusting human being. If she redeems herself, I'm all for it. I'm with everybody else.
It's one of those deals where you always want someone to have a pathway back, and it's not like she killed somebody or whatever. She was disrespectful at a point, but I guarantee you, we have been as well, and blah blah blah. So you always want to be like, all right, whatever. It's water on the bridge. It is what it is. If you get disrespectful and then people call you out on it, that's it. That's all. And then we move forward. And freaking next time's next time, and it's another opportunity to whatever, hold yourself in a different manner. But so for me, anyways, as a fellow Canadian was on the platform, one and all that was going on, I'm already past it. It is what it is. But yeah, you open yourself up to a little bit of scrutiny if you openly try to do stuff like that. There will be people who comment on it. That's why when you go public with it, people are going to comment. There's another. That's why maybe you take 24 hours, because you got to be careful how you go public, because
actions have consequences. Whoa.
yeah.
It's
Right.
crazy.
Gotta be careful. Gotta be careful of that kind of stuff. And it was Eurosport is another thing that
Yeah, that was
not for
on
nothing,
TV, wasn't it?
live on television. And I gotta tell you, we want everything to go well because it's representing us to millions of people all over Europe. And you want everybody to behave like it's freaking like it's the Olympics, man. We all know this is the vision they have when they put it on there, is like, make it look good. And that's why when that kind of stuff happens, for everyone involved that's putting it together and working on the media team and the whole nine, when you see that, you're like, frick, man. And then people are showing you the stories as it's happening. And I am commentating. They had me commentate the medal ceremonies for Eurosport, by the way. I commentate over it, talking about people's days and everything. And it's like, it's tough, man, because I know what Bonica had already posted, and I know all that, and I'm still for Eurosport going to be like, hell of a competitor. When I'm talking about Bonica, one of the greatest athletes of all time, one of the most, because I'm going to do my job as a professional.
Yeah,
and it
you
doesn't
can't just
matter.
like suddenly start putting her on blast. Although it would be
No,
funny. Brian, you should commit to the bit.
but that's where it is. But in my heart of hearts, I'm like, please, man, this is Eurosport. We're all trying to make this good stuff. It's tough. It's the toughest, but it is what it is. It's not, for me, it wasn't crazy huge deal. I was like, I wasn't like oh my God, upset and pissed off about it, super duper. But I could see where some people might be. Certainly, if you're close to Brit or on Team Canada, you might feel certain ways about things, and whatever. It is what it is. What are you going to do, buddy?
It's in the past.
It's in the past already. So let me ask you a couple questions about Worlds here, sir. I want to get your well, first off, the 66s. What did you think about that? Did that unravel how you thought it would?
I didn't. I'm very happy it unraveled the way it did. Storybook ending. All the glory to Pena. It couldn't have gone better if someone had wrote it out. You told me to listen to that podcast because you said that Pena had shit talked me. He didn't see it anywhere in the podcast.
Did I say shit talk to you?
Yeah, you told me he was talking. So I was like, okay, I'll listen to the whole podcast. Didn't bring up my name once. However, I was happy to listen to it. Great podcast.
I didn't know I told you that.
Yeah. But I didn't really have any bets or anything going into 66s. So when it came out the way it did, I was like, oh, that's cool. I wasn't hyper surprised. I am very happy though that Pena won. I think that he deserves it more than the rest. I guess the big controversy of it was Team America again fibbed deadlifts because Brian Lee opened too heavy, which that's a weird running theme actually, now that I'm thinking about it, with Team America, of just opening deadlifts too heavy. They should maybe stop doing that, because Delaney also did that. So maybe pull back the deadlift openers.
That cost Brian Lee heavily.
Yeah.
I know what they're thinking is he could pull 320, but to your point, Worlds is not going to be like you do domestically, and weird things can happen.
Yeah,
pacing, everything.
And even then, even pulling to 320, a 300 opener for 320 is
that's still
heavy.
Freaking too close.
Yeah.
That's 10 kilo. You jump 10 kilos, maybe on squats or whatever, but deads, if you're going to end up over 700 pounds, that's still a lot of weight. You want to think about pacing yourself and solidifying a total. I mean, he did, but like, yeah, it's tough, man. It's tough. They didn't leave a lot of room to grow.
So yeah, I guess bad deadlift selection by the Americans. Pena takes the win. Kyoto always makes mistakes. He had that one insane meet right before Sheffield in Japan, but again, I always looked at that and thought, why did he sort of why did he do that a week out from Sheffield?
No idea.
It's premature, right? And he hasn't been able to replicate that since. So I actually didn't have huge hopes for him. I was sort of like, if I had to bet on anyone, Brian Lee, but yeah, it turned out the way it did. Storybook ending. I don't have much to say on the 66s, sadly.
Pena right now, it's bonkers what's going on in France. I mean, at the silent worker meet, it's like 4 hours of pictures when he's there. And I'm not joking. A queue, 4 hours straight. He's in they have a photo booth there, and he's there like he's working a shift. His star power in France, like when he posted, he had 50,000 likes in like 9 hours. I don't know. You probably remember because you were at Worlds. He's like, look, everyone's like, look at Pena's traction right now. It's insane, man. People don't understand what's going on in France. How much France is how crazy they are for powerlifting. How crazy their crowd is for like a money meet. That's people had just competed 2 weeks ago and they're showing up and they know their total is going to come down. Whatever, they don't care. They're powerlifting crazy. And Pena is. They have stars like Turbo Tiff, Leah Bavois. Believe me when I tell you, Pena is by far. He can grab the microphone. Here's what the difference is. Rory was asking me. He's like, what separates Pena from like Leah Bavois, Turbo Tiff, and all the other world champions, Jad Jacob? They have big stars. And I'm like, watch what happens at the silent worker meet. And there was hundreds of people there. And Pena grabbed the microphone and he gave a speech off the cuff. And they were eating at the palm of his hands. He's charismatic. He had them rallying and cheering when he wanted him to. He had them like clapping for certain people, and he had them all like he was like rallying the troops. Like he's a natural born leader and totally unafraid with grabbing the mic and doing public speaking in front of hundreds of people, all unrehearsed and just ripping and rolling on it. And that is what makes him like the leader of the French Revolution. And
Yeah,
that is why
he's like powerlifting's Napoleon.
100%. 100%. You know what? For a second there, I thought you had a fucking team, like a French flag shirt on. And I was like, my God.
I should have worn my French shirt today.
I thought you were overcompensating for last podcast. I thought you did it as a bit because you in a bit. I was like, my man is committed to, and I was like, oh shit, the flag would have been signed.
I was like, no, it isn't the flag. It's just a funny suit. Like it's a sweater I got in Italy. It's got like an octopus on it. I actually have a French shirt, like a Team France shirt. I traded with Richmond Baden. I should have worn that. I missed the bit.
But Pena's rise is to the point where he's got pockets of haters around in France because when you get that big, that's what you get too big. It's like Russ or whatever. Like Pena and Russ are different personalities, but you know what I mean. You get too big, people like whatever. And him winning again, he was already huge. But people would have thought he won one and he's going to ride on popularity and be in the mix. But him winning the way he did with the storybook ending, his father never having ever come to a world championship to watch him compete, super ill, lost 30 kilos body weight, has something that helps him speak through his neck and the whole line. Pena went into details about his father doesn't even look the same anymore, shows up on that day. He wasn't even supposed to be there, surprising Pena, I'm going to be there for this world championship, and never gets involved with Pena's powerlifting career and told Pena leading into this, despite the fact Pena's fourth nomination, 22 kilos back, Pena's father says, you're going to win this world. And everything would indicate this is just, well, wouldn't that be nice? And Pena shows up and pulls off. And when Pena walked onto the platform, the look on his face when he looked at the barbell and like the whole nine, like he's a charismatic dude, man. And the whole storyline, everything. Doug, we were at that burger joint next door to the hotel. all of Team France was up there at the top level. And I mean, all the French, because like France shows up, France shows up.
Yeah.
Like anyone who comes, they
Yeah.
show up. And nobody's rolling up on Pena. All right. The guy's got he's got an entourage. And Pena, even up there, stood up at the end. And he's like, I want to say a few words. And just belted off some people were in tears at points, some people laughed at points because everyone's highly emotional. His dad was there. And it's crazy. And then at the end, everyone starts clapping. And everyone in the burger joint below was like, what's going on up there? They're doing speeches, clapping, and everyone's all, that's what Pena could do, dog. That's Pena. That's why Pena is separates himself. And people outside of France, all of his content, I asked him, like, why don't you put out more English content? He's like, YouTube penalizes you if your core audience doesn't watch some of your videos. So if I put out an English one, it's not going to take it's all the algorithm. So unfortunately, a vast majority of his content's in French on a lot of his platforms. So outside of France, we don't fully understand how big this guy is. But believe me when I tell you, he's fucking big. But we all know Pena in the powerlifting community. I think to a degree we know. But if you ever show up at France, if you ever show up at like Silent Worker or something like that,
I'm not showing up at France after what I said.
We're gonna have, you did good on this podcast though. But this is
I haven't
different.
said anything bad yet.
I haven't said it. Not about France. Not about France, anyways. Yeah. It's like, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But you show up, man, you'll see, and it's something else. Not only just Pena, but they would love you. They love like powerlifting. You'll be like, people don't super care. You're gonna be asked for like tons of like pictures, etc., because they're so in. Yeah. But anyways, it's something else, my friend. I got a couple other questions.
Well, I got a question first, actually, because it's been on my mind. I don't get the Silent Worker brand on why it's called Silent Worker. It's been bugging me because I feel like they've blown up so much, and like the French are known for being so like loud and bombastic, and they're not silent remotely. And I'm like, is it ironic?
And I just talked about how often Pena gave speeches. Will stand up and give speeches.
And like, it's not like they hide their training. Like, they're not silent workers. I don't get it. Like, I genuinely don't understand it.
Here's another thing on that podcast. Pena is a guy who wants to engage in trash talk. He talked about, remember that one clip where Joe Jordan reposted it, and he's like, I need my Joe Jordan.
Yeah.
I need my guy.
So I don't get the Silent Worker brand. Why is it called Silent Worker?
I think maybe initially out the gate, because it's from way back in like 2018 or something like that. I think maybe initially out the gate, they were silent and work in silence. Let your work speak for you. That's what the brand is. But for sure, that's not the that's not how people describe Team France or any of them. I'm glad because I love like everyone knows what I'm all in on Team France, but like in the French people. But yeah, I don't know, man. Whatever. It is what it is. I don't want them to change. I'll tell you that right now.
I mean, what do you think about deep? They can't change it, but it's just weird to me. Every time I hear about the Silent Worker brand, I don't get it.
What did you think about the somewhat villain arc with Pena talking about Kyoto, talking about Joe Jordan, talking about like he reacts. So you listen to the podcast. He needs something like when his dad was sick, he uses that. If he's got someone he's going against, he uses that. He needs something though that emotionally sparks him, and he looks for it. And it's not necessarily personal because he's openly saying like I'm looking for whatever. I'm sure if you're the other athlete, you could take it personally, but.
So I was just thinking about this while you were talking, and you brought up like the comparison between Russ and Pena, and I actually kind of feel like the villain arc maybe doesn't work with him. I mean, it's cool to see people go through their arcs, if you will, but I think Pena works so well because if we look at, because I talked about Russ on the last podcast on how like I think the only way he works from here on out is being the villain, because otherwise you're like the infallible good guy. Let's look at Russ really fast. You know, he's quintessentially the American powerlifter. He is hyper dominant, talks his game and backs it up. And if he's going to step into that villain role, it's like he comes in and he's sort of like that bully. He's like the end boss. He's like the bad guy. Pena isn't that dominant, right? Like he's a bit more of an underdog. Even coming into this meet, he was what, nominated fourth?
Hmm.
So then when he wins, it feels a lot better as like a fan if you're like rooting for like the underdog. But the underdog only works like it doesn't only work, but it works a lot better when like he's the quote unquote good guy. Like Pena's very like nice. He has a, a very good story to tell. He comes from like a background that is edging on tragic at this point with his father, and then it's like you really root for him and want him to win. That doesn't work if he's an asshole, in my opinion. And I think
How
it's
about
like that difference too between like American and Europe, where like the American Russ is so like boisterous and like a bully. Whereas like, yeah, he's French, he's European. It's always been about like the underdog and about like the proletariat versus the bourgeois or whatever, like the poor eating the rich. Like it's almost better if he remains like the little guy. Even as big as he gets, he still needs to remain like, I feel humble. I feel like as soon as he
thing with
starts to become like a bully, it looks bad.
okay, so here's what it is. Um, I agree with everything you said, but let me offer a different way of looking at it. Yeah, I think the underdog story, if you're the underdog, you don't want to be the bully. It's difficult to do both because the underdog story, people rally behind you. There might be in France, I don't know, a them against us feel. And if that's the case, it'll work for him. Because then if he's very heavily got France behind him, then when he does this, France rallies even more behind him. And it's a us against them. And he's like, this guy thinks he's number one. Let's go again, huh? And everyone's like, yeah, show them. But here's another way of looking at it. If he's not so if he's not so much a bully, let me pull it back. I remember watching the Olympics one time, and I said this on the Natalie Richards podcast. I didn't drop it yet, but if you heard that one, you're going to hear it again right here. I was watching the Olympics one time. And there's a pole vaulter from France, and I'm not super into fucking pole vaulting, but this is just on TV because the Olympics are on, and I'm going to watch it. It's a rising bar in pole vaulting. It just gets higher, higher, higher. And everyone's got 3 attempts, just like powerlifting, to get over that height. And then as it gets higher, people get knocked off. At the very end, there's only 2 guys left. And the French guy's defending world champion. And I think the other guy was from the host nation. So you've seen these stadiums, 50,000 people are around the other guy. But the French guy's the defending world champion. And there's just 2 of them left. And they each got 3 attempts. The hometown guy nailed it and got over the bar, and the crowd, 50,000 deep, goes crazy. And I'm like, oh shit. Then the French guy comes running in, sticks his stick in the ground, fires up, just nudges the bar, and it falls. And then he knows he's missed. He hits the mats, and the crowd all cheering that he missed. And he stands up with pride. And I'll never forget what it looked like with 50,000 people in that bowl deep, cheering that he missed and cheering their hometown, him grabbing that pole, looking around at the 50,000 deep, putting up his hand and going like this. And that is what I'm saying Pena is is he a bully or is he
A French hero.
That's right. That's right. He is like the leader of the French Revolution who's moving out beyond France, taking on Titans fearlessly. And people watching him be like, I wish I was as brave as him, chest out, being like, you think you're the best? My friend, I'm the world champion. So if you're talking about being the best, I'll see you on the platform. And he's not afraid. And he's like bold, like you want to be bold. But culturally, maybe you're not always that bold. And you're like, get him. Get him. Don't and whoever's, you know what I mean? That's what it is. Not such a bully, I don't think.
You sold me on that, I think, just because historically French patriotism is so strong. I mean, we have French Canadians even, like in Quebec. And
yeah.
They're a very proud people. So yeah, if he goes that route more so of like I do like if he goes with powerlifting Napoleon, I want royalties on that. That was my idea.
Well, I don't think he will. Yeah. I don't think you're safe. I don't think that conversation is going to need to be had.
Well, if he does, I want a cut from Silent Worker, even if I don't understand it. So
you're going to lawyer up and be like, I want in. I don't know what's going on here. But it is a good conversation because you're right in that if you're towing that line, you got to be difficult. You don't teeter over and start becoming bullying-ish. And that's important too, because it changes your brand, etc. I don't think he has. I don't think we're quite there yet, but it depends on moves. Because put it this way, when Petrie bombed out and Russ jumped on him on social media, Pena's not going to do something like that. It isn't going to quite go like that. What it'll be is if you make a video and you're in the 66s and you're talking about, I'm going to win worlds, I'm the best, I'm this, I'm that. That's where Pena with pride side is going to be like, excuse me, pardon me. Well, you're going to deal with me then, sir, because only one of us is going to be number one, and that's going to be me. And it's more from pride, and that's where his people be like, fuck.
It truly is less of a villain arc and more of like a hero arc. It's like everyone else in 66 has become a villain now by like default.
Well, it's all on how you see it narrative wise. That's why I knew I could that's what it feels like over there anyways when you go over there. The majority. There are some people who are, you get too big, you're going to have some haters here and there. But that's what it is. They rally around Pena. I'm telling you, dog, 4 or 5 hours, and I'm not exaggerating. You ask whoever was there. They rally around him like he is their hero. And he's brave, and he's going to face them off, and he comes through when he has no one expects him to come through. All the experts are like, hope he wins, but I don't think he will, and he does, and they're like, shit, man, like, oh my God. They're like, oh, and then he'll come home and be like, let somebody talk because I'll see you when I see you. And it's like, oh my, they're like, he's brave when he shouldn't be brave. He's the underdog and he should be humble. Coming into Worlds being like, I don't know, I hope I do well. He's coming into Worlds ranked 4th, 20 kilos behind, be like, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. And like, you should, no, don't worry, I'm gonna win. And if someone talks shit, and they should talk shit, they should believe, they're like, how dare you think you're gonna beat me? It's like, sir, you're 4th. I'm 20 kilos ahead. And he'll be like, how dare you, sir? How dare you, sir? People over in France are like, fuck, man, and then he pulls it off. It makes it bigger. It's crazy, Nick. This is like, imagine you doing that. It'd be crazy, man. I don't know. Canada's not quite a powerlifting nation like France is, so it's all timing too.
I think if I had won 83s, everyone would have just made fun of all the other 83s for losing to me. I think that's just it's less like Nick did so good and like, man, everyone sucked this year. How did that idiot win? I don't know, man. You're like, I don't have the inspirational story. I'm not quite coming off like that when I hit these. Yeah, I grew up in the suburbs. My family's fine. I'm good.
Everything's good. Everything's good. I'm talking shit. People actually like, I hope I just don't lose to that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He talked a lot of shit.
Talked a lot of shit, and he had no reason to. And he's mean. I don't like him. Yeah, the Nick Manders story.
The Nick Manders story. It's not a Netflix special. It's
hell no, that would suck.
It's not inspirational just yet. But dude, you're come from behind. It's entertaining to watch. That's for sure. Kaiko finally. Kaiko. I'm going to be dropping that podcast this weekend. Kaiko, how about this, dude? Finally winning an easy one, relatively speaking. People actually conceded he won. Usually comes down to the very last deadlift, etc. Kaiko said on the podcast. By the time people hear this one, the Kaiko podcast will have dropped. Kaiko's like, after I'm done pulling, since 2019, like for years, he's always in a battle, and he's the number 1 ranked 93 since 2019. Every single time. I'm done pulling, and I have to watch from the wings because somebody's pulling to take it from me. Because this always comes down to the last deadlift. I have to go 9 for 9. I have to be perfect to build my total, and then somebody's going to take it from me, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's such a battle. I can't believe it. He said when he was done his last pull, he's like, all right, here we go again. Well, who's up? Who's coming for me? And Team America's like, no, man, you won. He's like, no, but there's like a few more lifters, man, who like, I'm going to win. I appreciate the positivity, but who's coming? And they're like, no. Nobody's pulling for gold this time. You just won one on your second pull. And Kaiko's like, that easy, quote unquote easy, relatively speaking, for Kaiko, he's like, you kidding me? And they're like, yeah, no, it's already over. So just enjoy the pulls. They're vying for silver and bronze. He's like, holy shit.
What does that even feel like? Just sit back there and just be like, you're just waiting.
Like, finally.
Just like, I'll wait.
He was like, it wasn't my most memorable win in terms of excitement, whatever. Like he's got so many battles, but he's like, in terms of if people were like your finest, he's like, I did it. I finally like did it enough that everybody by the end was like, you win. We'll vie for silver. We'll vie for bronze or whatever. He's like, I finally did it, man. So anyways, that was cool. Petrie is like, I'm coming over, and we'll see, man. It's good. It's a whole nother enchilada at Worlds. Petrie knows. He'll be ready. But that's a stacked class, man.
I'd still give it to Kaiko. Like
As
if we're
early
gonna,
favorite.
yeah, as a very early favorite. I think purely on experience. Because would that be Petrie's first Worlds?
Yeah. Yes, it would.
Yeah. I think when it comes to like a battle, and then you have like one of the most experienced battle tested powerlifters to ever do it in Kaiko versus a first timer, I've got to give it to the vet.
Yeah, it's if you look at the totals, they're very close. But to your point, Petrie is in the US, and they're like local meets. He also does USAPL Nats, but it's going to be different when he goes
Yeah.
to Worlds. It's going to be different. And Petrie's a phenomenal talent, obviously, right? And they're very like, oh, but the thing is, all of them are phenomenal talents. However, if you're going to make a favorite, to your point, in sports, often it would look like who has consistently showed up year after year, 4 years in the tightest of battles in events as big as Sheffield, where everyone's like, oh my God, and you can be overwhelmed, to the tightest of strictest of judging the IPF Worlds, to time and again, 9 for 9, 27 lights, white lights when he needs to go perfect. He's just only once did he not go 9 for 9 at Worlds like that, or or a close battle like that, USAPL Nats included. And it's because of like they just get the change attempt in on time, or there's some kind of miscommunication with the wrong deadlift. That's the only time ever. I mean, I think Petrie would, or sorry, I think Kaiko would be the early favorite right now. Let's see how training goes. Where we're like a fucking year out. We don't even know if Petrie make the national team. We're already like,
I mean, yeah,
Petrie,
he could.
I mean, or Kaiko. We don't know if Kaiko makes a team.
Let's do the 2024 preview show right now.
Right fucking now. 3 years or 3 hours deep, a new podcast starts. And we just go division by division. But yeah, it would be, as of now, a year out, you got to think Kaiko's the favorite, but it'll be tight. It's close. It's super close. And you got guys like God, man, if Gavin can ever get 3 squats in, if he gets 3 squats in, who knows? But if he goes 2 for 3 every time, it's going to be tough. Sheffield, he did phenomenal, 880, and he was, I mean, he had a good total, but he's got it. He needs that
It's
third
the
squat.
way they take it from him too. Like it's not like he just gets 3 reds or whatever. It's like they always let him just like celebrate and feel great, and then just like shove him right down. I was actually saying, like, during the session, I was like, I have no idea how Gavin still comes out to bench.
Like, not only come out the bench, he equaled a PR he hadn't hit in 2 years and got a medal. And afterwards, I told him, because I went back there initially after squats, and he was super duper upset, like you might think. Like it just happened again. It just happened. And we all know the story about Sheffield, him going chest to chest with Taylor and the whole nine. Like it's very emotional. He's an emotional guy. This is what drives him. And for him to gather himself and come out and bench and handle his business and do what he did. I mean, it happened to him at Worlds, happened to him at Sheffield, now happened at Worlds again. He needs to get three squats in. If he does that, God knows. God
it
knows
doesn't
what
help
he's
too
capable
that
of.
way back when Gavin was one of the people to like, or he released a pretty controversial video talking about how like I would never challenge someone's lift. He's like, I think that's unsportsmanlike. Like I'd rather just see them get the lift and then I have to beat it. And it was very controversial, but he died on that hill. He was very much like, I would never do it. So for that to happen, or for him to state that, and then 3 big meets in a row, the third squat, the pivotal third squat gets overruled every single time. I'm genuinely surprised he still shows up.
When we were
like
at Worlds,
credit to him, I would not.
I mean, he puts his head back, he tucks his chin, he wades back in. He has his moments like everyone would think. You go in the back, you vent it all out, and then he rallies. Because Sheffield, he still had a phenomenal day. I mean, remember him
Yep.
leaving. Everyone remembers him leaving his last deadlift, which was an amazing deadlift. And then
Yeah.
him leaving and Kaiko was there. So he actually, like, despite how heartbroken he was for his third squat being overturned, had a phenomenal day and continued on. He can do it. He's Mr. Burn Your Ships.
Yeah,
He's like, fuck it, we'll deal
You
with
have
it later.
to. I mean, in Turkey, I had like a third squat overruled. It was no world record. It wasn't very big even, but even still, I still want to jump out of the window. But yeah, you just come back, you just do it. But it hasn't happened to me multiple meets in a row. That's the kicker.
In the class that's about to happen in 93s, for him to get back to Worlds, he'll have to deal with Kaiko, whether it's head to head or whether it's Kaiko's Sheffield total that he has to total or whatever. He'll have to deal with conceivably Petrie. He'll have to deal with, Bryce Lewis and whoever else comes, all just at nationals. Maybe even Russ if he goes 93. He'll have to. He needs a squat. He needs to figure this out. That's just period. And he's got time.
Yeah.
He's got time. He's strong as hell. It's just all about going 3 for 3. But the day he goes 3 for 3, can you imagine the hype around it now? It's been so built up. When he goes 3 for 3 and he looks over the jury and stares and nothing, no movement, they're just like, no, you're going to have it. You know it. Him, everyone in the crowd, everyone in the warm-up room is going to be like, oh, shit. This is going to be a monster total. Yeah, they're going to be like, okay.
How do you think that man is going to feel, though, if he sees like two whites again, like two white lights?
I swear to God,
he's going to put
crying.
I'd start begging. I'd get down on my hands and be, please. I'd go up to the jury prematurely and just be like, please.
Prematurely.
Need this.
Like, we are not doing nothing. You please, man. Please. No, I think he'll look. I don't think he even leaves the platform. I think he stops, look over to the jury, and just waits and just watches and sees and be like, I'm not celebrating. I'm not nothing. If you're going to take it from me, take it to my face. It won't be in the warm-up room when I find out, whatever. Let's do this properly. And eventually, we all know eventually he's going to go 3 for 3. And on that day, holy freaking smokes.
On that day, I think he wins.
He might.
I'll just straight up say it. I think that as soon as Gavin goes 3 for 3 on squat, I think he wins.
Well, his total, if he would have got that third squat, if he would have kept the third squat at Sheffield, his total would have ended up, I forget now what the numbers we did, but it was going to be.
It was near
crazy.
9, wasn't it?
It was. Should I pull it up? Fuck, we better pull it up then.
I want to say like 890 something. 891.
And again, we're not rewriting it because Kaiko would have adjusted his numbers too. We're just saying this is purely operating in a vacuum for Gavin. So 320. So he would have added 11 and a half kilos to 880. So he would have got 891.5.
I'm good at this.
Fuck, man. 891.5. That, by the way, would have been the world record and still would be the world record now. Like, that's crazy. That's a monster total. Again, if he goes 3 for 3, and we're not giving him anything else but the third squat, which, by the way, refs on the platform will give him. This isn't crazy, like, if you gave him that. No, judges on the platform are like, it's good.
Yeah.
Category, the international refs are like, it's good. So this isn't crazy. If it swings his way, yeah, we're talking into the 890s. The guy is extremely difficult to beat. I'm not saying Kaiko can't or Petrie or whatever. I'm just saying, with all due respect, Gavin is a monster if he can pull this off. He just needs 3.
Yeah, he's.
If Gavin, sorry, go ahead.
He is my favorite underdog 93. Genuinely, I want to see him win so badly, just because it would be a great underdog story. Like a man that's been somewhat shafted like 3 meets in a row. Just go get it. Like, I want him to win so bad. Like, the man only has so many ships he can burn. He's gonna run out of ships. He needs to like win at some point. Like, burning your ships only works if you win. If you don't win and you burnt all your ships, you die. So
how many times people in his homeland get that seagull? Can you pick me up? They get the seagull with the note and they read the note. Can you guys
yeah, they're like, Gavin, you burn your ships
They're
again. He's like, no, this next time, I swear.
Gavin, did you take the castle? I didn't take the castle this time, but we're gonna go. We're gonna sharpen that sword, and we're coming back next season. And that
like,
castle,
Gavin, how's your ship? I burnt it again. It's like,
I
oh,
burnt the fuck out
Gavin,
of it. I burnt the fuck out of it, though. Like, stop burning
Gavin.
your ships, man. Sail back home. We're gonna do this. No, but honestly, yeah, man. If he wins, it'll be like Pena. If he wins,
Yeah,
it'll be like freaking Pena. I mean, anyone who meets Gavin, like I love the kid. I freaking get along super crazy good with Gavin. I love the kid whether he wins or loses. I don't care. And I say loses loosely. For him, he considers anything less than winning losing. And I mean, look at what he did at Sheffield. He did phenomenal. He was on the podium. What did he ended up? Yeah, third at Sheffield overall amongst all world champions. But he's that dude, man. He's like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But yeah, we'll see what happens with Gavin in the future, but he's going to need it. He's going to need it. He's going to need 3 even to get out of the US shortly. We have one more question. Do you think Wasker I got a couple more questions, but one more off the top of my head before I ask you like one of my bigger questions. Do you think Wasker can do to the 59 kilo class what Pena did to the 66 kilo class? And there's different variables at play.
no.
And can you expand on it? You're like, no, and that's a stupid question. And I go, okay, well, there we go. Now we're done.
59 is too small, both in terms of population and frankly stature. People don't. I think it's already like a bit of a like 66s have gotten so impressive that they're a bit fun to watch now. But even so, it's like that little guy is lifting that much. It sounds condescending, but it's true. And then with all the way down to 59, it's genuinely, I think, hard for like Gen Pop to even Gen Pop powerlifting to like care that much. Like the only people that really care about like very lightweight weight classes tends to be I think powerlifters that like actually care about the sport. Like people that are like fans of it, that are passionate about it. 66 was that way for a while, and I know what you're saying, that like Pena changed that. Pena has a crazy wow factor, especially in the way that he pulls. Or not that he pulls, in the way that he lifts. The grinding, right? The thing that I'm so critical of in terms of growth as like an athlete is crazy good for growing the sport. People love to see a dogfight. And if every single one of your lifts is a dogfight, it's very exciting to watch, to tune in every single time. Be like, he's still doing it? That's crazy. Wasker is a smart lifter. He's coached by Steve Denovi, who is a very smart coach and who would not let that fly. So his training is just not that fun to watch. It's good training. It won him worlds, but it's not fun. Wasker doesn't have the same. He also doesn't have the same void to fill, I feel. Like, Pena also had the void to fill of like powerlifting in France. US powerlifting is already so well established that like some random 59 isn't not a random 59. That's very disrespectful. Even a 59 world champion, there's nothing that he can really do in the US that hasn't already been done. No, I don't think that like he's going to be the one to like grow 59s. I don't think that the 59s can ever really be like truly grown, frankly. Like maybe that's like the cynic in me, the pessimist, but it's too small a class. Like to get down to 59, the amount of people on earth that do that and also want to powerlift is so tiny. It's a class there more so for inclusion than like actual competitiveness, sadly.
What I would say is, well, you make good points, right? In terms of Pena coming from France is at the right time as well. This is like Muhammad Ali coming around at the time of the civil rights movement was perfect timing for a guy like Muhammad Ali. Whereas Pena coming around exactly right before France was ready to pop, he was obviously a part of the reason why they popped. Him and his whole crew are meat directors, like his fiance is within the federation, so he helped make it pop. But the fact that he came right as France explodes. And to your point, they're looking for a guy. And Pena's like, well, I'll be your guy. And when Pena takes his shirt off, like he's not as big as Russ, but he's jacked as shit. He looks the part. He's 66 is smaller, but he fills up a freaking picture frame when he posted them.
Yes.
He looks ripped and jacked, and people like, I want to look like that.
I was gonna say, is Wasker jacked?
He's jacked. He is jacked. I'll give him that. You see him. You
Start
see him
training
with the shirt off
shirtless.
on. It's not a bad idea.
Genuine, like sex sells.
Fuck
Like
yeah,
everyone
bro.
knows that. Just start training shirtless.
Wasker's not a bad looking guy, and I'll tell you what too. He's a good looking kid, and when he's on the podcast, he can actually talk. Like me and him can fill up like 2 to 3 hours, easy peasy lemon squeezy, because he's a good talker as well. That's not always the case. And his background. So well, actually, first let me big up Wascraft. I want to end on the pluses for Wasker, but let me dig a little deeper into what you're saying because you did make some good points. So Pena coming from France, perfect. They wanted somebody. Pena coming at the right time in France, yes, they needed somebody. Pena also, to your point with the 66s, they're all now start going 700 kilos and up, which is more than any gym bro is going to do. These guys are deadlifting over 700 pounds. You got gym bros who are 230 pounds who aren't deadlifting 700 pounds. They're going to be like, holy smokes. These guys are squatting. You got 66s who squat 600 pounds, like Jonathan Garcia will squat 600 pounds, but they're bench pressing 400 pounds and up. You got big jacked gym bros who aren't squatting 600, benching 400, or deading over 7. So when they tune in, they're like, holy shit, these guys are way stronger than I am, and I'm twice their size. And also, Pena, everything I already said about how charismatic he is and public speaker and all the rest of it, like, I don't know almost anybody who carries himself like Pena. And to fully get the Pena experience, you got to be in France. You're not going to see it at Worlds because it's not going to, unless you're at that freaking burger shop at the right point. And boy, oh boy, if you know France, you're going to have a tear in your eye. Okay, Playboy? But, or you're French Canadian, you're going to have a tear in your eye. Aurélie was probably somewhere downstairs eating her burger with a tear in her eye because she knew what he was saying. That's our girl. But, so there's all your points, and that's true, and very well said. And again, to the grind factor, not like on the day of Wasker grinds, and he had a crazy grinder squat, which is phenomenal. But in training, he's not grinding like that. Pena does, and he wins world titles. So keep grinding away, my friend. But yeah, his training videos explode and whatever. Now, and also one more point I'll add to yours. Penn has a crew that are all like world class and got massive followings, like Leah Bavois
Yeah.
on him. Like they're all like super tight too, by the way.
And it's a
Like
feedback loop.
that there it is. When you got a crew like that, and they're all like social media influencers in the same space, and they're all world champions, and they all work together. Like they all work together in Silent Worker and SBD France every single day. Penna's office is right here with his fiancés, is right there with Leah Babas, right there with Turbo Tiffs, is right there. They all work together. It's crazy. Coco is in the south of France, but he's part of it too. Like their crew is strong as shit. So when they do collabs and whatnot, they don't have to organize. They legitimately train together. It's not like, hey, I'm going to go down to this gym and hopefully this person's there or whatever. So that all helps as well. And most people don't have it. Wasker's not going to necessarily have that as well. Now let me say a couple things that will help Wasker. For sure, Wasker doesn't have all that, but here's what I'll give him. He is a good looking kid. Takes his shirt off. He's jacked and ripped. If you go on his Instagram, like he's smaller for sure. I think he's like 5'2", and 59 kilos is like 130 pounds. He probably walks around 140, whatever. But he's pretty muscular kid, so he can pull that off. Very good speaker. And you get him on some podcasts, and his story. I don't know if you heard his podcast yet. His background story. Him being a world champion, media outlets more and more, he's going to start telling his story. If you hear his story, and I don't want to go into all of it right now, but what happened to him as a child is insane in Dominican Republic. I mean, way worse than it's crazy, and he could tell it. He's a good storyteller. That being a storyteller is huge. I'm gonna tell you, you're a good storyteller too. Being a good storyteller is huge, and if you could tell your own story, and you have a story like Wasker's, so what he can do is as long as he keeps getting stronger and stronger, and he's pushing towards mid 600s for kilos. So he's probably outlifting most gym bros as well. He could be the guy that in videos you see a picture of him, how much smaller he is than this strong gym bro, and it'd be like, which guy you think is stronger? And then you reveal this guy's actually a world champion at 130 pounds, and you show, and he could smoke all the gym bros. And then he could also be the guy that when media outlets, if they get a hold of his background story, would be like, this is insane. And listen to it if it's at the beginning of the podcast. I literally clipped it and moved it to the beginning of the podcast. We hit it like 2.5 hours deep because you know how we could talk sometimes. I gotta tell you, we're like over 3 hours right now. But I clipped it and moved it to the beginning because I knew I want everyone to make sure they hear this. So his story is phenomenal. And on the day of, he has like when he grinded that squat out, he will throw his hands up and look at the kid and be like and celebrate like that. He's got something on the platform. To your point, a lot of Americans will do that, and he was not going to stand out like Pena does for France. Very good point. But he will do that though. He will give that, and he will like when he hit his one lift and he turns to his fiance and he's like pointing like, we're on. It's going to happen now. And he had the storyline. And if he's able to total enough to go to Sheffield, that is where the road to Sheffield videos will pop, and they're all going to say his background story, and people, I'm telling you, are going to be like, holy shit. And then when and the by the way, the road to Sheffield videos and all the lead up to Sheffield's in the future going to be much more robust. The first one was amazing, and that was basement to what's about to happen. So Sheffield, if he could just get to Sheffield, didn't hit it this time, but if he could do it next time, he has an opportunity to maybe not replicate Pena because for everything you already said, he doesn't have France, he doesn't have all that, he doesn't have the crew, whatever. But he'll make it interesting enough that people will be like, let me see what this guy does. He'll be like that little guy who can outlift all the gym bros, and like you'll watch it. I think it can help. What he needs after his story's done and the whole one-man show thing happens to sustain it. Pena has his Joe Jordan, his Kyoto, his Brian Lee, his I'm an underdog. I don't know if I'm going to win or what. He has people. When you get me interested in watching you, and I'm like, I'm watching this movie and I'm bought into tell me the main character's background story. I'm in. Holy fuck, crazy background story. Who does he face off with? No, you need to face off with someone. I got to think you're going to lose. I got to be worried about you. I need somebody on the other end. I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if he's going to win.
Again, that's a population thing. Who's going to fight Wasker? Who is in 56?
Right.
Or whatever it is. Is it 56? No,
59.
it's not. 59.
59.
I'm just making him even smaller.
You're proving your own point.
You're making him even smaller. Yeah.
But, yeah, well, Ivan from Spain is over 600, and Wasker hit over 600 last year. And from last year to this year, like that was the first time. And in a year's span, he got what he got. And Ivan from Spain is 4 years younger. He just went over 600. If he could do Wasker's pacing, and Wasker's pacing goes slow because he's at the top end, they might catch up. This is the only way. I'm not saying for sure. But if Ivan catches up, we're good. We got about
that's even the issue there is that, yeah, Wasker has more or less everything you need to become like a big name in powerlifting, right? But you need more of them in 59 alone just to make that work. Like Ivan from Spain, does he have all those factors?
Yeah, and I don't know about that.
Exactly, because it's not like Pena is fighting against like Joe Jordan and Kaiko, and they're just like random guys that like, they're just names. They have their own personalities. They might not be as big or as elaborate as Pena, but if we're making Pena more or less the main character and the hero of this, even within his arcs, he needs villains that are equally compelling, right? If you're just if we're gonna turn this into like villains and heroes kind of thing, if Wasker is just constantly going up against randoms that are good by their own merit, they're good, but like they have no story to tell in and of themselves, he by return becomes quite empty, right? So
you need someone to play against.
Yeah, so I feel like 59 is kind of like cursed in that way. That like if we ever have one, dude in it. You need multiple, and I don't think it's a class that ever supports multiple at any given time, like any one time.
We'll have to see. This, and you make good points, by the way. And Penn, and that's where Penn is kind of doubling back to earlier. Penn will make you his villain. Penn was openly saying, like, I need that. And he looks for things like if you say you're the best, he's going to get offended and he's going to, in his own mind, anyways, use it, motivate, but then his people will as well. And like he knows how to do his thing. Wasker does need a supporting cast. At least there was this worlds is getting bigger and bigger, and powerlifting is growing like crazy all over the world. And in Europe in particular, the standard is obviously way grown. In the last few years now, Europe's got like tons of world champions, whereas previously that wasn't the case. And Eurosport's going to start grabbing, and all the media in Europe's going to start grabbing people as well. But if Wasker can have, I don't know, Ivan, if Ivan can bring that, if what there is some, we had 2 flights of 59s for the 2 flights of 59s, which is like never happens. If we can grow this talent, let's see. Let's see. I appreciate your skepticism and you make great points. And I don't think we'll have 2 Waskers. If we had 2 Waskers, if there's a Wasker from UK or from France,
then we have something going.
Oh my God.
I mean, money fixes everything. You can produce villains purely through like optics and everything. So if SPD wants to pump money into it, I think it's a possibility. Then you have to question the return of investment on like pumping a ton of money into the 59s for what? But yeah, you could probably like, if you're gonna like go down like the route of interviews and everything, you could probably interview Ivan from Spain, cut the stuff, blah blah blah. You could turn it around to make people look more presentable than they are. The question though then is it worth it? But yeah. I don't know.
Well,
my take on 59s is very cynical, like you said. I just they're too small.
And fair enough. And you know what? Like it might not even be like for Sheffield or whatever with SPD involved, but maybe for Worlds, if people can start, all you need is Ivan wins the European title and Ivan's total actually starts bumping up. He's already in the 600. So he's just got to cover that gap, bridge that gap. And by the time we go into next Worlds, where Wasker is talking about getting the Sheffield invite, Ivan needs to threaten him and start talking and saying, don't worry about Sheffield, worry about me.
Oh, me.
And be like, don't look past me because I'm the one you need to beat and I might be going to Sheffield. If Ivan starts getting like that, now he's got to earn it by being close enough a total. If he picks up a European title and starts doing this, let's see. We'll see what happens. And he doesn't have to be a villain. He just like Pena, he just has to take in Spanish, they'll rally behind you. They're prideful and they'll rally behind you. He just has to take pride and be like, this American's looking past me. You start saying the right words, the right people in Europe will be like, sure.
Just
let's do
this. Give me Ivan's IG and I'll do it. I'll learn Spanish.
You're like, or you'll be like, Ivan, for again, I'm suing silent worker. I'm starting to do consultation for a small fee. I'm going to start giving you some how to do this. I'm going to start clapping at him. I'll write them out. I'll give you speeches, whatever.
Yeah, I'll give you a script. You just do exactly what I tell you to do. We can blow you up into a monster. It'd be hilarious.
But yeah, hopefully you win because it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
If you do really badly, I'm running for the hills. It's not my issue. Right. It's your issue. You said those words.
Issue. It's not my issue, kid. All right. That's not how this works. But yeah. All right. Good chat, man. We go some places, but these are like hot topics, how we can improve some weight classes. All right. How about this one? 2024. Here's some champions that have previously been in some tough battles or pulled off upsets or are in a super stacked division. I'm going to tell you the champions and the divisions, then I'll pose the question, okay? From lightest to heaviest. Pena in the 66s, nominated 4th, like 20 kilos behind. You got guys like Brian Lee, Kyoto, weren't meeting the standard or were just a little green at this Worlds, next Worlds. Maybe they can adjust, less green, etc. They're picking up experience. But Pena is the champ. Callie in 74s. Upseat Taylor. Are you good for going pee, by the way?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
I'm just like trying to remember everything.
Okay. Callie from the thank you. I appreciate it. Callie from the 74s. Upset the GOAT, but he's got Perk coming over. Super stacked division. Tim Monagati's super close. Oh, by the way, Taylor is probably going to be not injured. We'll see where that puts him. And Perk's coming over, but Callie's the champion. Delaney Wallace, people coming over from USAPL. Maybe Russ is going 83. Stack division yourself, you're gaining steam. And a Horo might start picking attempts differently. God knows if he feels the gap. Delaney Wallace, back-to-back champ, but he's got stiff competition. And Kaiko, always in a dogfight, always going to be real close to all of his competitors. He had a really good win but even then, his best total is super close to all of his other competitors' best totals, and Peachy's coming over. So we have Pena 66s, Callie 74s, Delaney 83s, Kaiko 93s. 2024. Who were those? How many of those guys are going to be the world champion? Of those four.
One.
What chance?
Kaiko.
Tough.
I think Kaiko's the only one that stays. Maybe Pena. But that one is like his win wasn't convincing. It was by like the skin of his teeth, right? Brian Lee and Team USA just need to pick better attempts, and I think that one swings different, right? So I think 2024 comes around, and hopefully, and especially the way that I feel about the French training style, I think Brian Lee puts on more than Pena does. I don't think Pena gains a lot, so I think that he loses next year. So that one I'm not so certain on. 74, I think Perkins comes. I think Perkins has shown enough interest, and even though I don't think that he's going to do some like insane shit like 830 at 74 in the IPF Worlds, I do think that he'll win. He'll edge out Callie, and I think Callie will come second. 83, I think Russ comes back, and let's be honest, it's probably Russ. As much as I'd like to be like, oh no, it's going to be me. I'm going to be the champion. It's probably Russ.
What if Russ can't come back yet with a suspension or something like that? What if Russ, or he goes 93? Let's say Russ doesn't come back.
Then it's me.
And you're like, then we're going that route.
Yeah, then it's
honestly
me.
you could say this isn't.
No, I genuinely mean that. I think that in a year. So my plan right now in terms of my own training is actually, so leave it up to fate, right? Like we talked about this at the hotel lobby, how like Canada's doing their team selection. I'm not going to Easterns. I need time to like fix my subtotal because
please explain that because most people won't know what you're talking about when you.
So Team Canada is selecting who goes to Worlds based off of highest total submitted after Easterns. Easterns is the last meet you can do for that. So I'll be submitting my Worlds total 797.5. That means that there are two people who will likely fight for that, which is Adam Jansen and Kafui. And so they need to total 800 or more, and they'll take my spot. I'm hoping again that Canada ends up doubling on 83s. So I think they would both need to total 800 or above, and that rate takes out my chances of going. I'm leaving it up to fate. I know that you didn't like that idea. A lot of people didn't, but I think that if I want to come back to Worlds and actually have a good shot at winning, I need to take the time off to actually fix my subtotal, because my subtotal hasn't moved since 2020, but I have increased my actual total by like 40 keys. Like I am
smokes.
My deadlift is flying up all the time, but my subtotal hasn't moved. And I think a big reason for that is I've done meets so consistently that I haven't had the time to actually like address the issues that I know are like lacking in my technique. Um, for instance, like on my bench, I'm changing it to a slightly closer grip because I have benched wide grip or max grip the entire time. And that's a change that it's a change that needs some time to implement. And I'm not comfortable competing at Easterns with that closer grip because then I think that um Adam or Caffley will edge me out. And at that point, I've just wasted money and I've gone to a meet just to not qualify for Worlds. Um, but I'm also not comfortable continuing to bench max grip all the way through. Because then yeah, my bench just isn't gonna move and my subtotal stagnates. So I have to leave it up to fate. I have to like gamble that a bit and hope that I can still make it to Worlds off of my 797. But if I do that, if I do go to Worlds, that means that I'll have a year off to really do what I've needed to do with my squat and bench, and also still continue to increase my deadlift because I obviously know how to do that. So the package that I'll bring to next Worlds, I think, will be enough to challenge almost anybody. I still hold maybe some reverence for Russ. I think that he's like above the rest of us in terms of like lifting capabilities. That I think that if he shows up, I'll settle for second. But I think coming second to Russ is like, it's not bad. But if Russ
Definitely
isn't
not
coming,
bad.
then I'm coming for gold. And I genuinely think that the fixes that I seek to make, a year is enough time. I'll have a good enough total for to fight for gold and have a very good chance at it. But yeah, it's more or less up to two others right now whether or not that occurs.
It's holy smokes, man. It's so I get it. You're right. It chews up time to not work on address on it because you can't do the bench coming to Eastern, so it won't be ready in time. So then you don't address the bench and then you waste that time you could be addressing it.
Yeah, and
You're
I
right.
just stagnate.
And you stagnate again. You're like, here we go again. We're stuck in a loop because I won't take the risk. And then to another point would be if those two guys, if Caffrey and Adam end up hitting 800 and they double up in 83s, and you're like, you're young. This is your first, that was your first open. It's not the end all. It's like, all right, well then I'm going to pick something. I'm going to end up blowing up a total somewhere. Everyone's going to talk about it and I'll be back. And everyone will be like, it's not like you just disappear. We'll have you on the podcast. So you'll blow up North Americans or whatever. And everyone will be like, oh my God, you see the total he did and whatever. It won't be the end. You know what I mean? It's 1 year at the worst. That's the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And then you could still end up doing 5 more Worlds appearances because you guys all battle it out at Nats again. So the worst case scenario isn't crazy bad. Best case scenario is phenomenal because you have a year to work on all your things. And then you show up and be like, all right, if you peg yourself an 805 lifter on that day, if you gave yourself the 7.5 kilos or whatever, or low eights, and you're like, can I throw on 30 kilos in a year? Am I 835-ish? Am I 837.5? Well, frick, that could win you Worlds any given year,
Yeah.
depending on if Russ is there. If that's what you're telling yourself, you're right. It'd be like, well, then that's my pathway. My worst case isn't the craziest because I got time on my side. You're a young guy. In my best case scenario, I'm really putting myself in the best possible position to win Worlds.
Yeah.
I get it.
Because the way I looked at it too was like, let's say I go to Easterns, I requalify for Worlds, they resend me again. But now everyone else has had time to like fix their issues. I feel like I haven't. And I just fall down the ladder, right? If anything, this was an opportunity because I don't know when I'm gonna have an opportunity again to like take a year off and like fix it. My subtotal blew up during lockdown, like during COVID. There was no way to compete. I really had time to like figure out these movements that aren't as intuitive to me. So to take this year and be like, you know what, maybe I can still do Worlds after it all. This is a very good opportunity for me to again elevate myself to like that next level from like bronze to gold as a lifter. I'm excited for like the off season looking forward. Like I'm going to seize it. very much, but it is still an off season, and it might be longer than I want it to be, but that's just more time.
And no matter what, you still will showcase what you did, likely on a Canadian team somewhere or whatever. And like if at the worst case scenario, Adam and Calf, we both, or just one of them hits, or however Team Canada does their, if they do 283s, 183, no matter what, you will still showcase the fruits of your labor, can do a massive total, and hopefully it's on a Team Canada, and hopefully you're whatever the hell. Like if that's the worst,
It's
it
still
is
not that
fate though.
bad. Yeah,
It's still
but
not
it
that
is
bad.
fate. It's
It
not
is
fate.
fate.
It's up to two others, and it's two others that equally want it, and we'll see if they deserve it. Like by no means am I gonna be like pissed off if they both totally 100. I'm like, no, it should be me. Like I don't agree with the way that Team Canada has set out how they're qualifying this, but we all know the rules. We all have to play by them. I'm making this choice, right? So
At the very least, you get to make it. That's true. At
yeah,
least you could be like, look, I'm comfortable making this choice. I'm at peace with it. It works the best. So Adam's going to be lifting at Easterns. That's September.
he is absolutely yes, he is signed up for Easterns.
And Cafwee is not, but he's doing North Americans in
Yes, North
August.
Americans. Yeah.
So you'll know pretty soon.
Yep.
At least you don't have to wait. At least it's not drug out like, frick, what are we doing here? At least you'll be like, by September, you'll be like, you're in and you're full steam ahead. Like, okay, I know what's next. Or like, all right, okay, fine. That's fine. I can
Yeah.
live with this. And you recalibrate and you start charting your path. At least it's that, man. The worst is like, well, I guess I'll find out next January. It's like, oh God, that's tough.
At that point,
That's
you just start pulling on the deadlift bar with straps on. Nothing matters anymore. You
yeah,
get completely
exactly.
nihilistic with your powerlifting. You pull like 900 pounds, but it's on a noodle bar and no one cares. And you're like, I'll be
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's yeah, at least you have some kind of conclusion. Um, Frank, I guess will you be watching those
Of
North Americans
course.
and
Of
Easterns? Yeah.
course.
It'd be difficult not to.
Be very weird of me to just
To
like
be
ask
like,
him how it did like a week later. Just be like, oh, I'm not going to
right.
Worlds? That's
Well, that
crazy.
would be that would be there's no way you'd be that cool about it. Like a week later. Oh, I
Just
didn't
like,
even
wait,
remember.
Adam, what'd you total? Oh, 800 on the dot? My bad.
You don't even you forget to ask. You know what? I forgot. How did that go, by the way? Yeah, frick. That's gonna be it's put it this way, it is interesting as a fan to watch though. It's almost like a freaking Grand Prix where you see this guy go, you see that guy go, you see whatever, and it puts emphasis on these events,
Oh yeah, I mean,
which
Easterns means
previously would
something
not.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So is North Americans again. In terms of like you can't do this every year. You got to have nationals
Well,
mean something.
it only matters to like me and like you to an extent. Like it's not like
Yeah, like
other
as
people are,
fans, but yeah.
yeah, like I don't know how many like Nick Manders fans are gonna be watching Easterns and being like, ah man, is Adam gonna
Put it
beat
this way.
mixed total?
I bet you, put it this way, we're talking the fuck out of it right now. Guarantee you, people listen to the podcast at some point will be like, I want to know if Nick made the team or not. They may not watch it like North Americans or whatever, but I guarantee you some people will be like, did Nick make the team? Can you guys have to do an
The
update?
NAPF streams are never good. I will save everyone the heartache when I know whether or not I'm going to Worlds. I'll just post it
Yeah.
because the NAPF
Post
streams and Eastern streams are like rough. They're there, but they're
yeah,
rough. I'll post it. I'll definitely post it.
post or actually I'll post in the stories too, because we're talking the fuck out of it. People are going to want to know what the hell's going on. And I'm obviously going to have you on long before next Worlds, even if you're not competing, because we could talk. Dude, we're going to close in on freaking 4 hours, man. What are we doing here?
Have me on the podcast right before Worlds. I'm not going like a week out, and let me just talk the craziest shit. Even though I'm not showing up, it's like, oh, I'm so strong right now. If I showed up, I'd beat Russ by like
That's right.
30 keys.
That
Yeah.
keys.
I'm ready to total 900. Why didn't Team Canada send me?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the hell happens. And I did like our discussion earlier about trying to come up with ways to make North Americans work. I don't think a lot would be like Europeans, but
It can't
It's
be.
tough.
Like you said, like we need the
Nations. You need
yeah,
more
we need the
national
nations.
teams.
We have Canada, we have the US. The rest of the Pan Ams, they're not great at powerlifting, man. Like
Brazil has got a couple pockets. Historically, they had a couple champions, but not now. Not right now.
I will say this as an anecdote, and it's crazy coming from me because at NAPS when I went, I bombed. However, I saw some of like the like Central American teams to warm up for squats, they were running suicides and doing burpees.
Oh my
So
fudge.
they're like they're kind of behind when it comes to like training methodologies and stuff. Like they're just not up to par yet. So
They're not powerlifting nations like some of the other nations. They don't take it. But here's what at the very least what I think is more likely. First off, Brazil could always raise back up for the Pan Ams, but that's only every 2 years. But they're kind of up and down sometimes. They can medal here and there. They even got world champions. But Canada's got to start pulling this weight. We need to start pulling our weight. If we can actually house a team like Tap from Montreal, Aurélie, 47s, Jessica Bittner, Brittany. In terms of the women, Aurélie is a podium favorite. Um, Obviously Jess, Britt. If we could sprinkle in some people in there, the women will be decent enough. Because I don't know too many of Team USA. Bonica versus Britt again, or some who's going to be Jess at 76. Good luck. Super tight. Known from US right now. Aurélie and Heather Connor rematch. Like we could, if we now they're not going to bypass worlds to make that happen, but if Canada got good enough that we could go head up in a couple divisions yourself, obviously, if you jump up that total, tap into 105s, he's got to raise his game, but he's a monster. In 18 months, he had the biggest GL points Canada's ever had. And he's only
yeah,
been in the game 18 months. So Tap's a phenomenal talent. If we have some talent that start rising up, all we need is a few good head up showdowns where it's like, I'm not sure he's going to win this. This is actually pretty good to watch. The only problem is you're going to see it at Worlds and not North Americans.
yeah,
See, this is where Euros got it right. Euros separated Worlds in North and Europeans. A lot of European lifters do both.
yeah.
Like a lot of the big names will do both. Pena, Leah, Carola Gara, they'll do both. Whereas most of us won't do North Americans. If we ever separated enough that North Americans is later on around the Euros time period, and we were going to get you versus Delaney rematch and Tap versus whoever at the 105s and Bonica versus Britt, Jess versus whoever, Aurélie, Heather. If you told me we're going to see all those rematches, I would be interested in seeing that. I think a lot of people
Yeah,
might.
come commentate it.
I actually would. Let me say something right now. I would be there if that happens in North Americans. It can't be a month later. People aren't going to
Yeah.
show up. They have to push it out to like Euros, and that's why Euros
Yes.
succeed. They have
Because
to move in December.
like on Pana's in his podcast with you, he was talking about how like he thinks that people should compete more often, which I agree with actually. I think competing is great for the sport. And he's like, he was kind of like taking shots at like, people in like North America. They don't compete often enough. That's how you like blah blah blah. We don't have any competitions. Like as a Canadian, like a high level Canadian, I got nationals because I want to qualify for worlds. I got worlds.
Yeah.
Right now, I have one meet because there's not even nationals to qualify for worlds. So why would I like? I'm also not going to waste my time and my money because for like I think the French team they get somewhat paid to like do meets or whatever, or at least it's covered. For me, it's mostly out of pocket to like. So I'm not going to just like run a bunch of local meets. I'm not going to run like a bunch of regional meets. Like we need NAPFs to just be another meet for North Americans to do. Because as is, it's like, yeah, we don't do a lot of meets. There's just not a lot of meets to do. Um, yeah, NAPF should be done alongside Euros. I don't see why it's not. Just do it at like the same time.
Yeah, and I think if they do that, it's an opportunity not only for the world's Americans, but maybe like we said, there's going to be a bottleneck of Americans, like so many world-class Americans that may not make worlds. They could now show up to NAPFs as well.
Yeah.
And
It makes
maybe
worlds more prestigious.
Yeah. And then you will have some of these Americans, like if Kaiko, Gavin, or Petrie or one of them doesn't make the world team, but they show up to North Americans. North Americans mean something because they have world-class guys like you or whoever showing up. And it's like we have at least a half-decent team because Canada can put together a half-decent team in some of these weight classes. All right, let's battle it out. You're gonna have to beat. If Delaney's got to beat you and you're posting up 800 plus, it's still gonna be good. It's still entertaining. Same with like Aurélie and Heather. They battled it out for that bronze and they're going to battle again. I would watch them go again, run it back.
Yeah.
Or Jessica Espinal. So like, you know what? Fuck it. I want to come back again. Good. Jessica Espinal and Heather, both in 47s, and Aurélie. Hell yeah. Let's go.
Yeah,
Britt versus Bonica again. Of course I would watch those two clash again. Like for sure.
And then the NAPF title means something.
Yeah.
Like I'm NAPF champion. Sick. Now it actually means something. As is, someone says that, I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
No one shows up to those meets. They're
And
less
even if
competitive than local meets.
Even if Delaney doesn't go, if like a John Gruden or whoever's the number 2 who didn't get to go to Worlds, and all of a sudden Gruden's like, well, why am I going? Like, who do I get to face? Well, clash with Nick. Try to beat Nick. It ain't going to be easy. You'll be pretty proud if you beat him. Like, it matters. It'll matter if you beat Nick, and then for yourself as well to beat John Gruden. Deuce Gruden, sorry. I keep saying John. Frick.
Well, I mean,
but sorry.
It is John, technically.
I think it is John, technically, right?
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it is.
As someone who's never spoken to him, this is just like off the grapevine, but I'm pretty sure it is like John Gruden Jr. or like John Gruden the second, rather. So Deuce just means second. So like the second John Gruden, so Deuce Gruden.
Because I know I've seen it actually John, and that's what keeps throwing me off when I look at stats. But anyways, yeah. So if we can for sure, even if US sends some of their number 2s, it'll be amazing battles. This can happen, man. Maybe I gotta talk to Robert Keller.
Yeah, make it happen. NAPS needs to mean something. It means nothing right now. And we need more meets because having only like nationals and worlds, we got to grow the sport. And by doing that, we could do that by like genuinely actually like growing the sport in like the literal sense. So,
yeah, I agree. Listen, dude, I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Holy shit, we're just under 4 hours, Playboy. We could talk, huh?
Yeah,
we can freaking talk, my man. This will drop. I'm gonna drop Kaiko's, and then I'll drop this one. And holy smokes, man! Let's see what happens.
Those are big shoes to fill. I hope I do all right.
I'm gonna chop up. Here's the problem with yourself. I got so many videos I could cut from this. I'm gonna have to pay somebody to run through this and grab the best.
Yeah, get an editor.
I
would do it, but I don't know how. Also, you owe me a drink.
Do I owe you a drink?
Yeah, at Worlds at the banquet.
What happened?
The last thing that happened is I sat in line for like way too long to get drinks. I was like, fuck it, give me 2. You came up the elevator looking all dapper. I was like, Ryan, have one of my drinks. Then you went, thanks, man. And then I didn't see you again the entire night. I didn't see, like, that was the last time I saw you all Malta. Came up the elevator. I was like, have one of my drinks, man. And then never saw you again.
Damn it, man. I wish we should have hung out too, man. We had a blast. It is what it is.
Could have been there when I took a picture with Bomaka.
I did. You gotta get that name out of your system, because at some point you're gonna say it in front of her by accident or some shit.
I'm gonna say it to her on purpose. I'm gonna stare right in her eyes, just like.
Oh god. But at least we hung out the rest of the week and stuff like that. But that does suck that we didn't hang out that night.
Yeah.
I owe you a drink. Next time I see you, we'll get you a drink. We're gonna end up doing podcasts at some point for sure.
Next podcast, we'll just do it shit faced.
Let's fucking dude.
Let's do a drunk podcast.
I mean, we all.
Have you done a drunk podcast yet?
I've had drinks, but never. No, I've had drinks. I've done like a St. Patty's Day podcast. I've done drinks on it, but never drunk. But it's not live. I can listen to
It's
it again and be
true.
like, all right.
Be like, they'll post that. Just maybe not
Dude,
this
if you
episode.
want to have drinks one of these, I'll have drinks for one of them. We can even pick one of the like a reason. We'll pick an event if it's like a Halloween special or some shit or whatever, you know.
Yeah, and then get some
And
other people in here. We'll have a little like KOTL party. Get Eric Helms in here. Me and him drank at Worlds. That's cool.
that's what I usually do is like for the holiday ones, I bring like 3 to 4 people and I think I had a couple cocktails in one, never fully drunk. But whatever, man, we can let our hair down.
My new goal is to black out on the KOTL podcast.
Yes. Yes.
The rest of you
Yes.
can carry on. I'll just black out on camera.
You're literally out on the couch in the background.
Yeah.
It's on video. It's
Yeah.
on video. I'm like, listen, he's gonna wake up and his Zoom is still on,
I'm
but
gonna
it is
black
what
out
it is.
early too, like 5 minutes in.
You show up, you've been pre-drinking, and you're just a body in the background, and the
Yeah.
rest of us are just carrying on. We're like,
I volunteer for that role. That is my new
And
goal in powerlifting.
people who listen to it, they get totally freaking doped into it because like, I thought Nick was on this episode, and then you log in and pass out, say nothing, be like, are you sure? I read the description. It says Nick. People in the audio only. Like, I don't even think Nick
Yeah.
was on this fucking one. I
2.5
came on here looking for
hours
some
up.
spice.
2.5 hours in, I'll wake up and just start throwing up into the mic.
You start barfing, and then you lay back down. You barf all over your sweater, your holiday sweater,
Yeah.
and people
Ryan,
watch-
play the name game. Play the name game.
people who watch the Spotify video are like, that was amazing. Like that was worth every piece. Nick was the best part of it. And people who listen to the audio only are like, God damn, I didn't get the full experience.
I'm down for that. That's my legacy. That'll
Okay,
be it.
we'll link it up. We'll think of one of the holidays where we're gonna have cocktails, and let's have some cocktails. We can even do a drinking game.
Perfect.
Just speed it up. It's all gonna be recorded ahead of time. But all right, well, there you go. There's a 4-hour podcast. Nick, thank you for coming on, dog.
Always a pleasure.
It's a good time. We're gonna rumble through a few of these more in the future. I'll let you know when I drop this. Make sure for the few weeks afterwards you got a bodyguard and watch the DMs. And for everybody listening, please do subscribe. Give us high ratings as per usual. Until next time, 6-pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are out.